What's up, freaks? The dogs are outside, so no dog video yet. Anyways, here is 2B, the second half of yesterday. It was an 11-hour actual day in trial, or in court.
Maybe see the time. Gentlemen of the jury, welcome back. Just to let you know, because we did ask and you said that you could go late tonight, it is our expectation that we will go late tonight. I don't know how late yet. At the next break, we'll take another break. It is almost 30 now. We'll take another break before 4:30 or at 4:30, and then after that break, we'll let you know, or maybe before that break, in case you need to make phone calls or anything. But I also may ask you all how late you think you can go, because I know that it is a long day. So I may get some input from you before I decide how late we're going to go, but we are going to go late tonight. So thank you again for your patience with us. Mr. Summers, you may proceed.
This is Mathewson. If we could go back for a moment to the Walgreens parking lot. After you had jumped out of the vehicle and ran into the parking lot, do you remember how far you ran into the parking lot?
I can't estimate how far.
Okay. And do you remember how we got back to the vehicle?
You grabbed me and forcibly put me back into the vehicle.
Did you ever say in another proceeding that I threw you over my shoulder and threw you back into the car?
I believe I did.
Okay. So Monday morning, we left off at the Citgo. I went in, and as the video showed, I bought some chewing tobacco. I paid for gasoline and a newspaper. And you said your statement was that I was wearing your Ann Taylor shorts. Correct?
Yes.
Does that indicate we were close to the same size that I could fit your shorts?
I'm shocked that you fit into my shorts.
And did you notice I was barefoot when I went into the store?
Yes.
Okay. And that was because of the muddy shoes from the field?
Yes.
Okay. Could you tell I looked a little, or do you think I looked a little embarrassed going in there wearing your shorts, female shorts, and no shoes?
I can't tell whether or not you were embarrassed or not.
If I was, you know me for 20 years, do you believe that I would be embarrassed wearing your clothes out of the house?
Objection, Judge. Relevance.
Sustained is irrelevant.
Okay. Well, let me ask this. In the 20 years you know me, have I ever worn your clothes?
No.
No. Okay. So we leave the Citgo. You said you were sitting in the third row?
Yes.
Do you remember where the food from McDonald's was pictured in the car, or would you like me to publish those pictures?
No, it was pictured at that time, them taking the pictures of the car, of it being behind the driver and passenger seats on the floor.
Okay. Did you move it there?
At some point, there was a lot of moving around inside the vehicle during that time frame. So at some point, someone moved it up.
Were we wrestling in the car?
No, I was using the bathroom in a McDonald's cup in the car. You were writing letters. You were strangling me in the car. There were several events that happened in that car after McDonald's.
We'll get to your story on that. But right now I'm asking if you ate your food in the second row or the third.
I ate my food in the third row.
So when we left the Citgo, where did we drive? Where did we drive to?
To Anna Maria Island.
And when we drove to Anna Maria Island, did we stop before we got there?
Yes, right at the entrance of the island.
Okay. And how many vehicles were in the parking lot when we stopped?
There were several.
Do you remember what those vehicles had attached to them?
I do not recall. I just know there were several vehicles.
Okay. Do you remember a man walking his dog?
I saw a man walking his dog.
Do you remember saying good morning to him?
I did not say good morning to him. I had to pee in a cup while we were in that parking lot because I could not get out of the car.
Do you remember smoking in that parking lot?
No, I do not.
Do you remember parking in one spot and then moving to another spot so that you could pee?
I do not.
Okay. When we drove on to... Oh, okay. So was it daylight when we were parking in this parking lot?
Yes, the sun had come up while we were there.
Okay. So it's Monday morning. Roughly what time? 6:30, 7 o'clock?
7 o'clock.
7 o'clock. And do you recall the name of the... or the number of the route that we drove on to Anna Maria Island from the Sicko?
I do not remember the name of any roads.
Are you familiar with that area? The drive to Anna Maria Island?
I just know you go over the bridge and then you go... No, I'm not familiar enough.
No. Do you remember us taking the kids?
Wait, what the heck's going on in here, you guys? Thanks, Kathy Chapin and Amy Higg. What the heck? Yeah, definitely. Well, the goal's over now, but yeah. If anybody still wants to help support the channel, I guess you can. But yeah, that was very kind of you. Thank you so much. Wow. Freaky Friday. Hope this helps towards the daily goal. Yep. Yeah, I lowered the daily goal just based on the what's been going on lately. So you doubled it basically. And also with Kathy Chapin there. So thank you. Wow. The great start to a day. So, yeah. So again, we still have on the stand here where the... hold on just a second. Man, about the sneeze. Yeah, where Trevor, the husband... ex-husband, I mean, is cross-examining his ex-wife that he once basically, like, abducted, tortured, and, you know, drove around, and, I mean, really crazy stuff. But he took over as his attorney right before the questioning of her. Like, he you know, he's an attorney for himself, and it's just really kind of a strange, weird scenario. So, and then I don't think he continues all the rest of the day. Then I think there's actually normal witnesses, which I'm sort of happy to hear somebody else for a little bit. Yeah, these guys are. This is really uncomfortable watching this. Like she can't even really look at him. Which makes sense.
Objection, Judge Relevance.
In light of the last question, I'll allow it.
You remember us driving the kids that same route on a regular basis to go to the beach?
I have been to Anna Maria Island before, a handful of...
And by the way, hey, thanks again, Amy Higg, and you're always so generous. Yeah, I just really appreciate it. It makes a big difference. Thank you. And everybody else helping out combined makes a massive difference too. So it's just like it's been a really cool I don't know what you call it, symbiotic relationship between me doing the shows, the freaks supporting the channel, my channel makes an income, and the charities absolutely kick ass, right? $163,000 since January 2020. That's not bad. Not bad at all.
frequently.
Okay. Would you agree that road is State Road 64?
Yes.
Would you agree that there are either 2 or 3 lanes in each direction?
I can't recall.
Would you agree that it was Monday morning rush hour traffic?
I will agree that it was Monday morning. I can't say the amount of traffic. It seemed like a normal amount of traffic.
Okay. So we drive onto Anna Maria Island, and what is the route we take when we get on Anna Maria Island?
I am not familiar with roads. I'm going to tell you, we get onto the island and we hang a right. That's all I know.
Okay. Do we go to a harbor?
I can't recall any harbor.
Okay. Do you know what the purpose of going on to Anna Maria Island
Was for you to find the safe house with the green and yellow flag because they had boats and they were going to get you out into international waters.
What is a safe house?
That's the term that you continually use throughout the weekend. It was like for, not like drug smugglers, like they smuggle people.
And have I ever been involved with smuggling people to your knowledge?
I had reason to believe that you had contacts that could do those types of things.
Okay. Do you see people while we're driving on Anna Maria Island?
Yes.
Do we park next to people between the boat slip and the harbor?
I don't remember a harbor. I don't remember this. No.
Okay. Do you remember how many people you saw when we were driving?
I do not.
When we left Anna Maria Island, what direction did we?
How's she supposed to sound like Jake from State Farm? She seems aggressive. Is she supposed to be really like, oh, meek and just like, oh, God. Oh, he's the guy that... I think it's pretty cool. You know? I mean, this guy kidnapped and tortured her. Kind of a weird comment, Jake from State Farm. Do you have an explanation for it?
To the top north side of Anna Maria Island.
Okay. When we left Anna Maria Island and we got back on 64, where did we go from there?
Up 41.
Okay. And we drove through the business district on 64 to get to 41, is that correct?
I can't tell you. I don't know.
Do you remember being stopped in rush hour traffic?
I do not know. I was lying down in the third row.
Do you remember turning left on 41?
I do not. I was lying down in the back row. I started recognizing some things as we got up to Ruskin through the windows, and that's how I knew I was on 41.
Would you be surprised if, say, a street camera caught?
Well, yeah. Well, if you don't know anything about a case, why would you jump in with an opinion like that? This lady right here was getting a divorce, or she was already divorced from, I believe, from this guy. And he broke into her house, basically raped her over and over and over again. Then he abducted her, put her in his car, and, he's the defendant. And then he took over as his own attorney just prior to questioning his own ex-wife that he's the one that tortured. So her ex-husband is the bald-headed guy. Doesn't it make sense to sort of try to figure out what the hell's going on first?
Caught us that morning and you were in the front seat?
Yes.
Okay. When we drive up 41, where do we go to next?
Turned left on Shell Point Road and then pulled into, you drove through a couple of those neighborhoods in that area trying to find a place to go pee. You couldn't find a place to go pee, and then you drove back on Shell Point Road to Little Harbor, turning right into Little Harbor, and then you peed in the car in the McDonald's cup because you couldn't find a place to pee.
Okay. And what direction were we heading after Shell Point Road?
When you pulled out of Shell Point Road, you turned right to get to the house that was up on stilts.
Okay. I'm asking, do you know the direction we were heading when we left the place in the woods from the dirt road? After driving and stopping at all these marinas, where were we heading?
I had no control of where we were heading at any time during this weekend. You were taking us to find these boats that you said that you had contacts with to get us out to get you out to international water.
Does that make any sense to you?
The 20 years that I have known you, I have reasons to believe that made perfect sense at that time.
Were we heading back to my house that morning?
No.
Does the route indicate we were heading back towards my house that morning?
No.
When we stopped at Little Harbor, did I get out and pee?
No.
Would it have been an easy thing for me to get out and pee next to a dumpster?
Objection, Judge.
Legal basis.
Speculation.
Just say.
You said that we parked right next to a dumpster.
Yes.
Okay. And was there any discussion about the purpose of being next to that dumpster?
No.
Was there any discussion about Little Harbor at all?
Not to my recollection.
So this was just a random place to stop?
This is where you drove to. I know. I was told this is where you were going to find a safe house and get a boat.
Okay. So then you got into an argument with me about my parents,
Yes.
and you say that a rope was tied around your right arm, around the seat, and then back on your right arm.
Correct.
Okay. And you did not tie that on your arm.
No.
Okay. So can you explain how the rope comes around your neck if it's tied around the back of the seat?
You had an additional piece of rope.
Do you know if an additional piece of rope was put into evidence?
I have no idea.
Would you be surprised if it was not?
I would.
Okay. Did you say that I was trying to strangle you for maybe 10 or so minutes?
I don't know. It felt like a long time to me, so I don't know.
Do you know how many minutes we were parked at Little Harbor?
I have no idea.
Did you say in another proceeding that all of a sudden he stopped?
Possibly.
Would you like to refresh your memory?
I may have said he stopped before he dove into the driver's seat.
Okay.
Yes.
You saw the picture of all of the items in the back seat, the third row.
Yes.
Did they look all disorganized and thrown all over the place?
Yes.
Did they look like someone was sitting back there?
Yes.
They did?
Yes.
Sitting on top of all that stuff?
The car seats are not where they normally are. Yes.
So is it your testimony that I was sitting on top of those items and then jumped into the front seat?
Yes.
Okay. And then you say that I sped away or I peeled out.
Yes.
Did you notice any marks on the
It was gravel.
gravel?
Yes.
Did you notice someone pulling up behind us?
I noticed a black truck in the vicinity.
Did I tell you that I think we're in an employee's parking spot?
Possibly.
And when we drove from there, we turned right on Shell Point Road, correct?
Yes.
And we parked under that home.
Yes.
Okay. Your Honor, may I please get photographs?
Yes.
Getting state's evidence key 1 through 50.
Okay. Thank you. And David, before Mr. Summers, all you need to do is, if you're going to publish any of them, just announce for the record which one you're publishing.
Yes, sir. Okay. Okay, publishing P12. Mrs. Mathewson, whose shoes are on the driver's seat there?
Those are my shoes that Trevor tried to wear, that you had tried to wear, and you couldn't walk in them.
Do I fit those shoes?
You had used them, but you couldn't walk in them.
Okay. Publishing photo P18. Are those my shoes?
Yes.
And where are they located?
Second row.
Second row?
Yes.
And the McDonald's platter, do you see that?
Yes.
And that is in the second row?
Yes.
Okay. And this is P20, publishing P20. What is in the passenger side door pocket?
Some trash, a pack of cigarettes, and a water bottle.
Okay. When's the last time you took a smoke break? That morning. Remember what time?
Under the tree before McDonald's.
That was the okay. Publishing P21. Mrs. Mathewson, do you see any of the gushing blood from you on that seat?
I would have cleaned up the blood from me. This blood is from when you slit your throat.
Um, Publishing P29. Miss Mathewson, can you tell me what's in that photograph?
That is my purse.
What else is in that photograph?
A belt?
Did I attempt to tie you up with a belt?
No.
Did I attempt to strangle you with a belt?
It's possible that you tried to strangle me with the rope, and I strangled me with the belt, and I thought it was rope. I don't know.
How wide is that belt?
It's wide.
No. And how about the McDonald's bag? Is
What about
that in the behind the second row or third row?
This is in the second row.
Okay. Publishing P30. Mrs. Mathewson, is that your purse?
Yes.
Can you recognize what those contents are?
My wallet, my sunglasses, and I can't see other than that.
See a wire?
I do. I see a charging wire.
That's a charging wire. Did you put that charging wire in there before we left your home?
I don't believe so.
Do you keep that charging wire in your purse?
I don't remember what I kept in my purse 5.5 years ago.
Do you remember what you packed in your purse before we left your house?
I don't remember packing my purse or packing my suitcase. I did not do any of those.
You don't remember? Okay.
Well, I didn't.
Publishing P34. Ms. Mathewson, is that the condition of the back seat that you remember when you left the vehicle?
When I was rescued, this is the condition of the back seat. This is not the way the back seat would normally look.
Do you know where I may have been sitting on that back seat?
I don't know where you were sitting.
Okay. Publishing P39. Ms. Mathewson, on the left side of the suitcase, do you know what those files or documents are?
Work files.
Work files?
I believe they're work files.
Okay. And publishing P43. Mrs. Mathewson, are the clothes that got muddy from the time in the country?
Yes.
And would you say we were in that country area, you said approximately around midnight, Saturday night, maybe just before midnight until about 5:30 Sunday or Monday morning?
Yes.
So roughly 30 hours,
Yes.
which is the majority of the weekend?
Yes.
Okay. And publishing P35. Mrs. Mathewson, do you see a pink book here?
Yes.
What is that?
I was told to keep some notes of different things that were happening during the divorce. And I didn't do a very good job with keeping notes of the things, but I jotted down some things.
So that's your journal?
I wouldn't consider it a journal. It was just something where I would jot down some notes.
Okay. Does it contain writings from you then?
Yes.
Would anyone else have been writing in it?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. When I finish with these exhibits, we'll turn them to the clerk. And I would like to please have photographs labeled F1 through 2060. Publishing photo F5. You see that photo, Mrs. Mathewson?
Yes.
Does that string look long enough to wrap around the back of a chair, around your arm, back to this arm, and then to then come also around your neck?
That is what occurred.
Okay. And publishing photo F8. Ms. Matheson, do you see the faint line on your neck?
Yes.
Did that occur when we were wrestling in the back of your car?
That occurred when you were in the third row and I was tied to the second row captain's chair.
Did that occur with a belt?
As I said before, I believe it was the nylon rope that you used, that you wrapped around my neck. I was busy fighting for my life to notice what exactly it was that was around my neck, but I believe it was the black rope.
Do you have any recollection of possibly scratching yourself?
No, I did not scratch myself.
Do you have any recollection of when we were traveling through the mud and the fields and the ravines the night before, of me helping you if I could have scratched you?
No, you did not scratch my neck.
It was your testimony that this was around both sides of your neck, correct?
Yes.
And publishing F3. Ms. Mathewson, is there any mark on this side of your neck?
There is. When I see the actual photograph, it is clear that there is a mark on both sides of my neck.
I'm asking if this photo shows.
I can't see it with the glare on here, but I know I went through those photographs and there was marks on both sides of my neck.
Would you like me to zoom in?
I went through these photos and there is marks on both sides of my neck. I was also photographed at the crisis center, and at the crisis center there was marks on both sides of my neck.
Would you say that the mark on the left side of your neck is about the width of a fingernail?
No, I would not. A fingernail from your cuticle to the top.
Okay. Finish with these photos. Turn them.
Thank you.
Please use exhibit A1 through A32.
Okay.
That's it.
That's it?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that.
Publishing photo set to A6. Ms. Mathewson, are those Christmas lights the way that they were left when you left the home Saturday?
I did not witness the Christmas lights be put back into the garage, so I have no idea.
Is that where you kept them stored?
With my Christmas decorations, I would assume so.
But
But
specifically in that basket, is that correct?
I don't remember how I packed my Christmas decorations in 2016.
Okay. Publishing photo set to A111. Do you recognize that pillow?
It is a pink throw pillow.
Okay. Was that the pillow used to, though, that you said you were suffocated?
No.
Let me just, you said A111. Is it A11?
I'm sorry. Yes.
Set to A11.
Yes, that's right. A11. Publishing photo set to A12. Mrs. Matson, is that the pillow that you said you were suffocated?
That one or the one that's identical to it. It was one of those.
Publishing set to A13. Mrs. Mathewson, are any of those the pillow that you say you were suffocated?
Like I said, the one that one, they may be the one with the pillowcase off that matched the other one. I can't tell from the glare, but it could.
Could be done.
It was more the first one, but there was two that looked like that.
Okay. Publishing set to A17.
No.
Mrs. Mathewson, is that the pillow you say you're suffocated?
No.
Publishing set to A19. Ms. Mathewson, is that the pillow you say you're suffocated?
No.
Publishing set to A21. Ms. Mathewson, is that the pillow you say you're suffocated?
No.
Publishing set to A23. Ms. Mathewson, is that the pillow you say you're suffocated?
No.
Publishing set to A26. Ms. Mathewson, is that the pillow you say you're suffocated?
No.
Returning this one. Okay. Thank you. Mrs. Mathewson,
Yes.
in our marriage, have you ever made a statement in a previous recorded, or have you ever made a previous recorded statement about our marriage, stating that sex really didn't mean much to you? It's not a big deal to have sex with me.
Objection, Judge. Relevance?
So,
That means I answered.
I'm sorry, yes.
Okay. Yes.
And in those prior statements, did you also say that you would do that, you would have sex with me just for financial gain or for some gain of your own?
I would have sex with you to keep in your good graces.
Okay. On February 18th, did you have sex with me because I was giving you a $25,000 check in the divorce paperwork?
I had sex with you because it didn't make a difference to me one way or another. It meant nothing, and I didn't matter.
So on this weekend, where you say I'm promising you money from offshore accounts and all these other wild things, was it the same thing? Did you have sex with me because it didn't matter?
No, I had sex with you so I didn't die. That is what happened this weekend. That is the biggest difference. I was staying alive, and I had sex with you to stay alive.
Okay. That statement you're just making now, does that differ from any previous statements that you've made about the sex that weekend?
No.
Okay. I'm just about finished, Your Honor. Okay. When we were in your bedroom, you made a statement that you didn't believe that people would believe you about the events, about things that were happening between us, and that you wanted proof. Is that correct?
I said that this is so outrageous, no one is going to believe that this is happening.
Right.
Along those lines.
Okay. And that was a pattern through the weekend.
Yes, mostly concerning Arden and Landon, and that's why a lot of it had to do with Arden and Landon.
Okay. And you also made a statement that you were relieved when you thought that I was giving all of these things to you. It was what you wanted. And is that correct?
I was relieved that you were going to be leaving me behind with my children. That was my main concern, was my children. Not about any financial gain, which there was none, but only about my children.
I'm not asking about how you feel now. I'm asking about how you felt then.
Only to be home to my children, to mend the damage that you had done.
Okay. Did you ask me for proof of what you wanted people to believe?
Never asked you for proof of anything. I never asked you for proof. You said things and I just listened to your ramblings of things.
So you're saying that you don't think that people are going to believe any of this, but then you're saying you're not asking me for proof, correct?
No, I made a statement that nobody's going to believe this.
Okay. Were there any other iPhone videos deleted that you're aware of?
I am not aware of. I did not have access to my phone.
Okay. You also said that after the signal that I made you climb to the third row. How did I make you climb to a third row?
You would tell me what to do, and if I didn't do it, there would be consequences. That is making someone do it.
I didn't force you physically?
No.
Have you ever researched on your phone or computers anything about a quote-unquote safe house?
No.
Have you ever downloaded pictures of a green and yellow flag?
No.
You also stated that in the car while we were parked next to the dumpster, that you felt a body near me. Do you recall that statement?
I don't recall. I felt your body be from behind me. Something along those lines.
The same as how you felt my body while you're running away at Walgreens?
Yes.
Are you a psychic?
Objection, Judge.
Sustained.
Do you have the ability to sense things around you?
I think we all use our senses to sense when there's someone around us.
Do you practice any kind of spiritual things that involve this kind of sensuality?
There's a thing called discernment in the Bible, and I am a Christian, so I believe in discernment. So, yes, in a way.
Okay. You also stated that you were not struggling to breathe when you say that you were being strangled in the car. So what gives you the impression that you were about to be killed, or you thought you were going to be killed?
I was gasping for air as you were speeding away from that area. I was so busy trying to fight off. I didn't lose consciousness is what my answer is.
Okay. You also stated that we were in a panic. Was it just me in a panic or you in a panic at that time?
I would say both. I would say me. I would say more me.
So you're in a panic, but at the same time you can make calm, argumentative statements about my parents or whatever else we were talking about.
That was prior to you strangling me.
I'm asking about this time in the car. where you
I'm
said
not
you
in
were
a panic until I'm fighting for my life of you strangling me. So we weren't having conversations.
Okay. You said that we were frantic while we drove away from that dumpster. Is that correct?
More so, I was frantic. You were just focused on getting away. I can't tell what you were doing. I don't know.
Well, where were you when I was driving away from Little Harbor?
I was tied to the chair behind you. I can't see what you're doing. We are not having conversations. I am tied to a chair and had just been strangled.
So how did you see the vehicle behind you if you're tied to the chair?
I can turn my head.
Are you able to turn it all the way around?
No.
Okay. When we arrived at you called it a safe house. Was there a green and yellow flag there?
No.
No. While we were sitting in the car, before my neck was cut, before you got out of the vehicle, did you recognize either of the two men sitting on the steps at the house next to us?
I did recognize the men sitting over in the house next to us.
Were they staring at us in a strange way?
No.
What were they looking at?
I have no idea.
Did you later learn that they were looking at a helicopter in front of us?
Objection, Judge. Speculation.
Sustained.
Did you recognize the helicopter?
I did not see the helicopter. The only helicopter I heard was when we were under the tree by the farm.
Okay. Could you describe the two men that were sitting on the steps of the neighbor's house?
One was older than the other. He had white hair. He was a little bit heavier than the other man. That's really all I can tell you.
Okay. And could they have been a witness to anything happening between us?
Objection, Judge. Speculation.
Sustained. This is speculation.
Let me ask this. Did you notice them looking in our direction?
No, I did not.
Okay. At any point during the weekend, did you have the car keys?
No.
So if another record stated, you made a statement that you had the car keys on Saturday night, would that be a lie?
That would be a lie.
If made by you lied?
Yes, I did not have the car keys at any point.
Okay. Did I ask you to drive me to the hospital after my neck was cut?
No,
Why was I in the passenger seat?
because you went from the driver's seat and you climbed over into the passenger seat so you could turn and look at me while you slit your throat and said crazy speak like, I'm laying my life down for you. You don't deserve this.
Was I mad at you?
Yes, you were furious.
What was I mad about?
That I got out of the car at the Walgreens, that you're getting caught, that all of it.
Did I make a statement about if you're going to tie that rope on you, I'm going to say you tried to kill me?
No,
No. Did I appear to want to leave the vehicle?
Objection, Judge. Speculation.
Rephrase it.
Did I attempt to leave the vehicle?
not that I saw.
Did I talk about the residents of that house?
Prior, as soon as you pulled underneath, you said that it was a safe house. That's the only thing I knew.
Did I tell you that I thought the police were behind us?
Yes.
Did I say I wanted to run away?
No.
Did I say that I was afraid of the police?
No.
Did I say that I was concerned about being arrested?
No.
Okay. You said that I offered to cut the ropes off of you when you were sitting in that second seat. Correct?
Yes.
And as you saw in the picture, and did I cut the ropes off you?
No, you did not.
I didn't. And you said again, how'd they get on your arm?
You tied them on this arm, ran it around behind the seat, looped it through this arm, which wasn't tied on this arm, looped it back over to this arm, and tied it over here. And so I was confined to this position.
Okay. Did the deputies have to cut you out of that seat?
They did not.
I just wanted to note the time that the cross-examination's been taking place. It's been 4 hours.
Yep, I'm just about finished. We're at the end of the timeline. Did the deputies have to cut you out of the car?
They did not.
They did not. So how did the how did the ropes get cut off?
After you started slitting your throat, you leaned backwards with the razor blade in my direction at me, and I pulled my arm, like did this weird twist, pulled my arm out to protect myself from you coming at me, and the looped side fell down behind the seat, and I had both my hands forward, telling you, look, I'm out.
But you saw the picture of the rope. It was clearly cut, not looped.
No, it is clearly looped in the picture. When they hold it up, there's a big loop that goes almost down to the floor.
Okay, that's different. I just have one moment here.
Yes.
Okay. Last couple of questions. And after you did the first interview at the District 4 office,
Yes.
where did you go from there?
Went with the detectives to go collect evidence.
That was your phone?
The Bunker Hill area, and they did find my phone. They found the location where my wrist was slit. So those were the areas.
Did you go to the hospital after that?
I went to the crisis center after that.
Okay. And then where did you go after that?
Then I went to the hospital.
And after the hospital,
I went to a hotel.
you went to a hotel. What time did you get back to your house? Was it Monday night or Tuesday morning?
I couldn't go back to my house for 2 nights. I was in a hotel for 2 nights after I was found.
Okay. And when the deputies looked for my phone, they could not find it?
They could not find it in the dense wooded creek area. They could not find it. It was too dense.
Were you happy about the settlement agreement,
It was more than I had asked for.
even with the children?
I had filed for divorce with full custody, and I had reason to believe, even with the marriage settlement agreement that said 50-50, that I would have full custody of my children very soon.
Why do you believe that?
Judge, I'm just gonna, if you would instruct the victim that he has now opened the door so she can answer that question. I'm sorry, the defendant has opened the door, so she's allowed to answer that question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
What
She
question?
can answer the question. That's I've told her before she can answer the
Well,
question.
then I'll strike
He
the
was
question. I don't
going-
understand what we're talking about. I'm sorry.
Do you want to ask the question at this point, or do you not want to ask the question?
I'll strike the question.
All right.
I believe that's it for now, Your Honor. I'll pass the witness.
All right. Any read?
Yes, Judge. Ms. Mathewson, on the early morning hours of March 11th of 2017, when the struggle occurred in the family room, were things broken, things slammed around, that there would be holes in the walls, people punched, that there would be blood coming from either person's body, anything like that?
No.
Okay. Is that how you ever described this struggle, wrestling to have occurred in the family room?
No.
And you stated that during that time, though, you did scratch the defendant's face.
Yes.
And is the scratch on the defendant's face in the photographs that had been already introduced?
Yes.
When he was at the hospital?
Yes.
The red mark on the face?
Yes.
Those are the scratches that you're referring to?
Yes.
Did you put any items in your suitcase? Any cosmetics? Any perfume? I know he tried to trick you and say, which kind of perfume did you put into your suitcase? Did you put any perfume in the suitcase?
No.
So if there's perfume in the suitcase, how did it get there?
It would have been Trevor Summers.
He kept referring to other hearings, things like that. Has there ever been any criminal trial that has taken place with regards to this?
No.
This incident?
No.
He showed you a picture of a duct tape in the trash can, towards the top of the trash can, and asked you if you had done something earlier in the week that it would have ended up there. Would there be trash that you had used and placed in there from earlier in the week sitting on top of the trash?
No.
When he took the sock out of your mouth so that you could finally breathe better since you were congested, were you concerned about where that sock went, where he put it?
No.
Would you agree that there were clothes kind of all over the place? In the kid's bedroom, in your closet, baskets of clothing in your closet, in your bedroom?
Yes.
May I put to witness?
You may, absolutely.
Ms. Mathewson, I'm showing you what's been pre-marked as State's Exhibit Set 1, A105 and 106. Do you recognize these photographs?
Yes.
And how do you recognize them?
That is in my living room, family room.
Do they fairly and accurately depict how your family room, living room looked on March 11th of 2017?
Yes.
State offers an evidence State's Exhibit Set 1A, 105, and 106.
Any objection? No objection. I think will be admitted at this time.
Permission to publish.
You may vote.
Publishing a 105 Set 1. I'm going to draw your attention to the landline phone with the cord hanging down there, as well as a 106. Is that phone plugged into anything?
No.
The videos that were made utilizing your iPhone, did you know they were deleted?
I did not. I had no access to the phone.
Did you later learn that in trial preparation? Or did you learn that at another time?
I don't know when I learned that.
Did the defendant ever tell you he deleted those videos that he made?
No.
For all you knew, those videos remained on your phone. Is that correct?
Yes.
Are you aware that when a forensic dump or a forensic download is performed on a phone, that it can recover deleted material?
I did not know that.
Where did you leave your iPhone then when you went to sleep that night of the 10th?
On my end table.
How long did you go straight from, did the defendant drive you straight from your home when you left there to the Walgreens? Were there any stops in between?
No stops.
How long did it take you to get from the Walgreens, from your home to the Walgreens?
Probably 15 minutes.
So if the 911 call was made at approximately 9:07, you would have been somewhere 15, 17, 20 minutes before that. You were leaving your home, is that correct?
Correct.
The defendant brought up that he was asking you questions about whether you were in fear that you were going to get in trouble because you were in contact with him. When you were in contact with him, that was not of your own free will. Is that fair to say?
Correct.
Who was the person, the only person that ignored any kind of violation or any injunction, protective order?
Trevor Summers.
Did you ever drive your own vehicle between March 11th of 2017 and March 13th?
No.
There are blisters notated on photographs taken by law enforcement on your body, near your feet and ankles, as well as the crisis center. How did those blisters originally get there?
From the ropes of being tied.
You were questioned on cross-examination about, in another hearing, testifying that he had thrown you over his shoulder when you had fled from the Walgreens. Why is it that you had said something different previously and are saying that he had grabbed you and picked you up and carried you to the vehicle?
So because my hands are bound behind my back, and the way he grabbed me, he came around my body like this, and it was in that motion of that picking up, kind of like he was going to throw me over his shoulder, but he didn't really throw me over his shoulder. It was just more that motion.
Okay. When did you ever wrestle with him in the car during any time between the 11th to the 13th?
No.
You had testified on cross-examination that you were mostly concerned that Arden and Lando were not going to believe that this whole situation had happened. Why was that?
They had severe parental alienation. They were diagnosed with severe parental alienation that was caused by Trevor Summers to have my children hate me, despise me, want to do me harm.
Did you ever tell Trevor Summers what to say in the recorded videos on your iPhone or in the writings that he made in the vehicle?
Absolutely not.
Were those his own words?
His own words.
How long were you under that house with the stilts prior to law enforcement coming in and rescuing you?
Matter of minutes.
We have a moment, Judge?
Yeah. All right. I know it's not quite 4 o'clock, but gentlemen of the jury, we're going to go ahead and take the break that I told you we'd take close to 4 o'clock. What I'm going to ask you all to do while you're back there is to collectively agree on what the latest time you would be willing to go tonight, and let Deputy Estea know so that then he can come in and let us know. It has to be quick. You all can talk about it, and if you come up with a collective agreement as to what time, let Deputy Estea know, just so I have some idea what it is. I will instruct you again not to talk about the case amongst yourselves, also not to do any research about the case or talk to anyone else for that matter about the case. All rise for the jury. Everyone may be seated. You may step down. I suspect that she's not released, given that she was served, so she's excused at this time, but not released as a witness. But you may step down, and you also may remain in the courtroom. Ms. Johnson, I just want to ask, just so that I'm sure, so that I'm not confused, what was the point of noting the record at the 4-hour mark?
I just didn't know if Your Honor was aware that that was the 4-hour mark.
Had I made a ruling, though, that I was limiting to 4 hours?
No, you were not at all, Judge. You just...
Well, I just want to know, because we got other witnesses that I suspect, and I want to make sure we're all on the same page. If you have authority that says that I can limit his cross-examination to some time, I prefer that I have that beforehand and that we flesh it out outside of the jury. Just do me a favor, don't note that in front of the jury, and I'll ask him not to note however long the direct examination has gone. But if we have certainly, if you convince me that I can limit him to a certain time and I do it, then I would have somebody let me know where it's at so that I can sit him down. I just don't think that I can do that. I was using that as a reference, and also what strikes me is that if you add the redirect time, if we were doing that, the actual comparison, there's a redirect too. So let's, all right, thank you. Have a nice break. I'll see you back in a little bit. I don't need that on, I don't think. So the jurors said 8 o'clock, which is reasonable and not.
Yeah, I think that I actually think the judge is backtracking a little bit. His whole thing yesterday was trying to, he almost seemed like he was trying to limit it. But he realized, wait, I can't do that. Today, he realized he can't really do that. And it's also kind of lame that the prosecutor was like, hey, he's already at the 4-hour mark. What does that have to do with anything? There isn't. It's not like a debate where there's a clock that you click, or like playing chess where you click the thing and whoever does the less time. I don't know. That whole thing is just really bizarre to me. That was even talked about whatsoever. Who gives a shit? You don't. He could be on there for 6 weeks. Okay, if that's what he needs to do to or the prosecution can be up there. It's just. I thought it was really strange that he brought that up yesterday. I think most of you guys also thought that was a little weird, right?
I told the bailiffs to order pizza to be here about 6, because that'll be the time for the next short break. We'll just take a...
I'm not sure why it's quiet now. Let me rewind it slightly a little bit.
Everyone may be seated. You may step down.
Huh. All of a sudden, it's no audio.
She's not released, given that she was served, so
sorry,
she's
you can.
excused at this time, but not released as a witness. But you may step down, and you also may remain in the courtroom. Ms. Johnson, I just want to ask, just so that I'm sure, so that I'm not confused, what was the point of noting the record at the 4-hour mark?
I just didn't know if Your Honor was aware that that was.
No, that's not what he was doing. He didn't just need to know how long he needed to stay. Yesterday, or even on, the first half of the day, like she says, well, I'm on 4 hours, and then how long? I mean, maybe that's something to do with that, but I don't think so. I just think that whole thing that he brought up about how much time something should take was weird. But, right. Anyways, I gotta go.
And I made a ruling, though, that I was limiting him to 4 hours?
No, we're not at all, Judge. You just,
I just want to know, because we got other witnesses that I suspect, and I want to make sure we're all on the same page. If you have authority that says that I can limit his cross-examination to some time, I prefer that I have that beforehand and that we flesh it out outside of the jury. Just do me a favor, don't note that in front of the jury, and I'll ask him not to note however long the direct examination has gone. But if we have certainly, if you convince me that I can limit him to a certain time and I do it, then I would have somebody let me know where it's at so that I can sit him down. I just don't think that I can do that. Yeah. I was using that as a...
Had my poached salmon cooking on the stove. Anyways, see how the way he's even wording it is like he's explaining what he really meant and everything, you know.
What strikes me is that if you add the redirect time, if we were doing that, you know, the actual comparison, there's a redirect too. So let's... All right, thank you. Have a nice break. I'll see you back in a little bit. I don't need that on, I don't think. So, the jurors said 8 o'clock, which is reasonable and nice. What I've done is I've told the bailiffs to order pizza to be here about 6, because that'll be the time for the next short break. We'll just take a 20-minute break, allow them to or 15-minute break. Or actually, we'll tell them when the pizza gets here, we're going to take a break, and we'll tell them to let us know, you know, within 15 or 20 minutes that they're done and ready to come back, and then we will pick up and go till 8. So that's the plan. Is the state ready for the next witness? Yes. Who is the next witness?
Detective Schrock.
Okay. I don't intend to take another...
Sir, I don't want to... What kind of pizza is it? I can only have one kind. Can you make sure? Thank you.
Witnesses after that?
Deputy Cruz, Corporal Blair, and then Rita Hall and Kimberly Shea, which we'll have on Zoom.
Uh-huh.
Then Francesca Montgomery.
So none of the children are testifying today?
yes, I believe Brand will be testifying and Arden, hopefully.
Okay.
But
Well, I mean, I think she named like 6 witnesses, and that's fine. If we get through, that's absolutely. I just want to let Mr. Summers know that the same rules apply. You didn't do anything, you know, everything's gone fine so far. But when the children are up here, and I know that they're not necessarily still children, but it's a very sensitive with you cross-examining them, and I just want to let you know, please treat them with the same respect, and I'm sure you will. But it's a touchy situation, and let's just get through it.
Yes.
Okay. No problem. All right. All right, let's get the jury. Are you ready, Mr. Summers? Yes. Let's get the jury.
One of the witnesses, Francesca Montgomery, she has to be there by 6:30, so obviously...
Okay, well, what do I have to do with that?
I'm just letting you know that we're trying to...
Maybe we need to do a dinner.
I mean, I have no control over that, do I?
Can we do a dinner break later? Because the problem is we can't...
Okay, yeah, pizza here at 6:30. She's got to be done by 6:30.
Yes.
Pizza breaks at 6:30. Perfect. Thank you. I apologize. Ready for the jury? Let's get the jury. If your witness before is still not finished at 6:30, I have no control over it.
Hey, by the way, if you're looking for a pizza really fast, you know what makes really good pizzas is, like I said it before in another show, 7-Eleven. I mean, it sounds ridiculous, but they've got these pizzas in the back, and you bring it up to the front, and they cook it in 3 minutes, and it is just, I don't know, the crust and everything's so good. You should give it a shot. But the whole cooking process of a totally from dough with, you know, stuff on it, it's 3 minutes in this machine that they've got. Who knows what's really going on?
In the pizza break, absolutely. All members of the jury are present and seated. Everyone else may be seated at this time. Gentlemen of the jury, welcome back. I don't know if the bailiff told you, Deputy Estea, I'm going to order pizza. We're going to take a next break. I appreciate that you all said you could go until 8. The plan is to order pizza, have it here at 6:30, which will be a good time for our next break. Take a short break to allow you to eat the pizza for 15 or 20 minutes, come back, and go until 8 o'clock. All right. Shane, I'll ask you to call your next witness.
Detective Todd Schrock.
Todd Schrock. Good afternoon and welcome. Come on in to be sworn wherever you're comfortable. If you'll face me and raise your right hand. Thank you. Do you swear affirm any testimony you've given this proceeding will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you. If you'll follow the bailiff now to the ramp that leads up to the witness chair, please watch your step. Go ahead, have a seat, make yourself comfortable. That microphone in front of you is fully adjustable, and it is not on. If you could touch that thing at the bottom, and then the little green light will come on. Perfect.
Detective, can you please state your name and spell your last name for the record?
Todd Schrock, S-C-H-R-O-C-K,
And where are you employed?
Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office.
How long have you been with the sheriff's office?
Almost 24 years.
And where are you currently assigned as duties-wise?
I am at the District 5 Intelligence Unit.
Back in March of 2017, what position did you hold?
I was the District 4 Intelligence Unit.
Were you a detective at that time as well?
Yes.
Okay. Is District 4 in the southern part of Hillsborough County?
Yes, it is.
The Ruskin, Little Harbor area?
Yes, ma'am.
On March 13th of 2017, did you become involved in the case involving Trevor Summers?
Yes, I did.
How did you become involved?
I was advised by my supervisor that they had possibly located the vehicle that Mr. Summers and Mrs. Summers may be in, and that it was located off of Shell Point Road. So my unit and several other people started heading towards that area where it was spotted.
On March 13th, when you were advised of this by your supervisors, was it known by the sheriff's office as to the vehicle that Trevor Summers and his wife, Alyssa Summers, were allegedly to be in?
Yes, it was known for a couple days of the vehicle and its license plate.
Okay. And so on the 13th, you are asked to respond to the Little Harbor? Or
Yes.
on Shell Point Road?
Shell Point Road, yes, ma'am.
Okay, so did you actually go to Little Harbor or just on Shell Point Road?
The house where the vehicle was parked was actually on Shell Point Road, like the very west dead end, almost near the very dead end of West Shell Point.
Is that west of Little Harbor?
Yes.
Okay. What time did you arrive there?
I would have to look at my report to tell you the exact time I arrived on scene. I don't remember the exact time.
Okay. Were you by yourself or was somebody else with you?
I was with Detective Morales also.
Were you guys undercover, with plain clothes, or marked vehicle with uniforms?
No, we worked in an undercover capacity. It was in a plain car, plain clothes.
Okay. What vehicle did you two have that day, if you remember?
I've been through so many undercover vehicles, I honestly couldn't tell you what car I was driving that day.
Okay. But not your typical marked HCSO lights insignia?
No, ma'am.
Okay. What did you and Detective Morales do once you responded to the address that this vehicle was believed to be at?
As we're pulling up to the address, we could see the vehicle parked on like the south side underneath the residence. And then we continued to the north because the road curved to the north, and we continued north past the residence and took a northern perimeter.
And what do you mean by you observed the vehicle under the residence?
The residence was like a 2 or 3 story residence on the water, so therefore it was raised above the ground, and all your vehicles would park underneath the house. There wasn't garage doors or anything; it was all open, but you could actually park underneath the house because the house was like on stilts because it was right there on the water.
So when you and Detective Morales drove by the vehicle, were you able to see if the vehicle was turned on?
We could not determine that from where we were at.
Okay, were you able to determine if there was anybody in the vehicle at the time you drove by?
No, because the vehicle had tint on it. Well, all we could tell was the vehicle was there.
Okay, and you said that you took a northern perimeter position of the vehicle?
Yes.
What did you and Detective Morales do at that point?
We put on our ballistic vests, say sheriff and everything, got suited up to wait for everybody else to go approach the vehicle when more people arrived.
How many units ultimately arrived?
I don't know the answer to that. There was several people out there.
Okay, and at some point were you given the command to approach the vehicle?
Yes, we were.
What happened as you approached?
Myself and Detective Morales came from the north, so we're going south towards the vehicle, and you couldn't see the vehicle because of where it was positioned at the house. So we're walking underneath the house, and once we round the corner of being underneath the house around the pillars, you saw the car. I announced sheriff's office. I told everybody to get their hands up, and I saw Mr. Summers in the front passenger seat, and he turned and looked at me and put his hands up.
Prior to giving those commands of putting hands up, did you see individuals in the car?
No, I didn't see him until we actually rounded the pillar, and then there was the car, and there they were. We couldn't see him prior to that.
Okay. And then you indicated that once you gave the verbal commands to put your hands up, you saw the male in the front passenger seat putting his hands up.
Correct.
Did you see anybody else in the car?
There, through the tent, you could tell in the back seat, on the driver's side, in the back seat, there's another silhouette of a person.
And did you approach the front passenger side that the male was sitting in?
Yes, I did.
Do you know who approached the other side of the vehicle?
I do not know who was on the other side of the vehicle.
Okay. Do you see the person that you came into contact that was in the front passenger seat in court?
Yes, I do.
Can you point to him and identify what he's wearing?
He's wearing a blue button-up shirt with no tie.
Please let the record reflect the witnesses identify the defendant.
Record shall so reflect.
Once you got to the front passenger side, were you able to open the door?
No, I was not.
Was it locked?
Yes.
What did you do then?
I ordered him to unlock the door, and he did, and then he opened the door.
What happened after he opened the door?
I ordered him to get on the ground, and he exited the vehicle and went down to the ground.
Did you make any observations of him as he opened the door and got out of the vehicle?
When he was turning to come out of the vehicle to go on the ground, I noticed a large laceration on the left side of his neck.
Was it actively bleeding?
There was some blood there. I mean, it wasn't gushing blood by any means, but there was a little bit of blood on him.
And at that point, you said he got on the ground?
Yes.
Was he taken into custody?
Yes, he was.
Was he treated there at the scene for the cut?
Well, Hillsborough County Fire Rescue arrived on scene, and then they started to treat him there on scene, and then he was transported to the hospital.
Did you have any involvement with him being transported to the hospital?
I followed the ambulance to the hospital.
And what was the purpose of that?
Just because he was in custody for this crime, there was a detective inside the ambulance with him, I believe, and I was just followed to the hospital to where there's going to be marked patrol units there at the hospital to make sure he's secure at the hospital.
Other than the verbal commands to raise his hands and unlock the door, did you ask any other questions of the defendant?
No, I did not.
Any other statements or interviews regarding the purpose for him being taken into custody at that point?
No, I did not.
State will pass witness.
Cross-examination.
Good afternoon, Detective.
Good afternoon.
I just had a couple of quick questions. At the arrest scene, do you know how many men approached from the passenger side?
How many total approached? No, I know there was me and Detective Morales was with me. I do not know if anybody was behind him at that time.
Okay. Did you approach with guns drawn?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And you said I didn't give you any trouble?
No, you did not.
No. And do you recall if there was aviation in the area?
I don't recall. No idea, sir.
Okay. And at the hospital, can you just explain to me a little bit more about who...
Wait, wow, he didn't give him any trouble? He's innocent, man. He didn't give him any trouble at all. God, I bet he was holding a Bible as well. This guy is awesome. Holy crap, everybody. Did you hear that? He didn't give the police any trouble. So he's actually a polite psycho. That's amazing, everybody. I think we should let him go. As long as he promises to read the Bible every day, we're going to go ahead and let him out, all right?
Kind of what happened when did you see me exit the ambulance?
When the ambulance pulled up, you were wheeled into the emergency room, and there was already uniformed patrol people there, and those are the ones that took over. I mean,
okay, so they didn't sit me in a hallway.
I have no idea what they did with you inside the hospital.
Okay, so you left at the doors of the hospital?
Yeah, I believe I walked in briefly, then that's when the uniforms were there, and then we were relieved, so I left.
Do you know what uniforms they were there?
Yeah, uniform patrol deputies.
Do you know who they were?
No, I do not.
No. They were maybe Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office?
No, they were Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office, but their names, I don't know the names of who was there.
Okay. That's all the questions I have. Thank you.
Redirect.
No, Your Honor.
May this witness be released by the state, or
Yes.
And released by the defense?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Ms. Steph, release the witness this time. Thanks, sir. I'll ask the state, please call your next witness.
Deputy Nicholas Cruz.
Deputy Nicholas Cruz.
And thanks again for Law and Crime to allow me to be able to play some of these older trials. They said if there was a live trial, I could do it the next day. Maybe that's a better way to do
Be
it.
sworn as a witness.
See, like if it's a live trial, I think it's good to do it the next day because then you can get it and then shorten it down to a more manageable view. So I don't know if you guys are interested in that, but like at some point, if there's actually an interesting trial going on, we could do it. If it's one of the really big ones and I can get the live feed myself, I'll probably do that. Yeah, well, I don't know if they're really arguing about pizza, Amy, but I was just kind of goofing around. I could just see somebody going, hey, I don't really. Can I get something else? And can I, how about just learn to eat pizza? Okay. I'm sure there's some kind of cheese out there that's, I know. Who knows if that's really how it is? He just said we'll get you pizza. And do they get to order the pizza? Now that's something we should really be talking about. Do they get to order the type of pizza they want, or is it just sort of we'll get one veggie and one meat?
You're comfortable if you'll face me and raise your right hand, please. Thank you. Do you swear affirm any testimony you give in this proceeding will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, sir.
All right, if you'll follow the bailiff now to the ramp that leads up to the witness chair, please watch your step. When you get to the chair, go ahead, have a seat, make yourself comfortable. That microphone in front of you is fully adjustable.
I'd like a pizza, no cheese, please. Man, that wouldn't taste very good. I guess it would be I guess it wouldn't be bad, right? I'm not really, I'm pretty lactose intolerant myself, but I've been taking these probiotics, and no, I'm not doing an ad. And it seems like my stomach's a little bit better at it. I don't know if I can drink a glass of milk or something, but.
Deputy Cruz, can you state your name for the record?
Nicholas Cruz, CRUZ.
And, sir, you're employed with the Sheriff's Office?
Yes, ma'am.
How long have you been employed with the Sheriff's Office?
Since July 18, 2005.
And you're a patrol deputy?
Yes, ma'am.
Back in March of 2017, were you also a patrol deputy?
In a different sense, I was on the motor squad. I was a motor unit at the time.
Okay, and then as you sit here today, what unit are you a part of?
I'm a District 4 patrol.
Okay. What's the difference between the motor unit versus patrol?
At that time, I drove an unmarked car and had a motorcycle as well. So it was more traffic-related duties. Now I do more patrol duties and answer calls for service that are generated from our comm center, like 911 calls, domestic, things like that.
Okay, and back in March of 2017, as a deputy with the motor unit, did you have a uniform or were you plainclothes?
I was uniformed. Similar to this, the only thing, the pants were tapered, and I had boots that came up to like just below my knee.
Okay. Now, on March 13th of 2017, were you asked to respond to a residence off of Shell Point Road?
Yes, ma'am.
And was that in reference to a vehicle that was spotted that the Sheriff's Office had been looking for?
Yes, ma'am.
What did you do once you arrived at that residence?
Well, we were instructed by several supervisors that there had been an alert out for our vehicle. So we gathered a bunch of deputies to kind of go to the area where the vehicle was seen or was called in from a tip. There were some undercovers who were in the area in unmarked vehicles that had an eye or eyeball that were viewing the car and people in it. So we came up with a plan on how we're going to approach and sort of converge on the vehicle, and that's what we did.
Now, at some point, was the decision made and command given for you and the undercover individuals to approach that vehicle?
Yes, ma'am.
What side of the vehicle did you approach?
The driver's side of the vehicle.
Once you approached the driver's side of that vehicle, did you see anybody inside of it?
Yes, ma'am.
Where and what person?
I noticed two individuals in the vehicle. One was in the front passenger, and there was one in the rear on the driver's side of the vehicle.
The person in the rear driver's side, was that male or female?
Female.
The person in the front passenger side, was that a male or a female?
Male.
And did you ultimately come in contact with the female in the rear driver's side?
Yes, ma'am.
Tell us about that.
Well, at the point where we were converging on the vehicle, there was the team that was going to address the male that was sitting in front, and we knew that the female in the back was a victim based on the reports that we had. So my job at the time was, once they made contact with the driver and got his attention, my duties were to extract her from the vehicle, from the driver's side.
And did you do that?
Absolutely.
Okay. Once you were able to extract her from the vehicle, what did you do?
I quickly rushed her from the scene. I observed that she had some injuries to her hand, to her wrist area, and then I quickly got her into my unmarked Crown Vic at the time, and I drove her to our district office, which was probably about 3.5 miles away, and ordered medical to meet us there, and just got her away from the scene.
Did you ultimately identify her as being Alyssa Summers?
Yes, ma'am.
What was her demeanor like when you extracted her from the vehicle and got her away from that situation?
From the point of my initial contact to the drive, there was a range of emotions. Grateful for being helped, frantic, scared, crying, and ultimately, she was happy to be out of the situation, but still kind of shocked, like a surreal moment for her.
Now, while you were transporting her to the district, did you ask her any questions about what had transpired between her and the male that was in the front passenger seat of that vehicle?
My initial questions for her was how was she feeling? Was she hurt and whatnot? She complained of the wrist, being cut on the wrist, and she said he cut me on the wrist.
Without telling us what she told you,
Sustained.
did you ascertain some initial facts from Ms. Summers as to what happened?
Yes.
Okay. And then did you later on provide that information to any of the lead detectives in this case?
I did, and I also wrote it in my interview with her as part of my report, my supplement to this case.
Was it a brief conversation?
Yes.
Did you have any other involvement?
No, ma'am.
Once you took her to the district and she was treated, did you remain there with her or go about your duties elsewhere?
Only for a couple moments until I handed her over to the medical staff. Hillsborough County Fire Rescue was there to tend to her. And at that point, I reached the detectives. They asked them, hey, did she say anything? I said, yeah, this is what she said. And I said, I'm going to put it in my report. And that was it. At that point, I was cleared from the scene.
The state will pass the witness.
Cross-examination.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Deputy.
Good afternoon, sir.
Just a few questions.
Yes.
When Mrs. Mathewson was taken out of the vehicle, was there any resistance to getting her out?
From her, no.
From her, no. Was she tied to the vehicle?
She was not, but she had something wrapped around her, I believe her left wrist.
Her left wrist?
I believe so.
Yes. Did you notice a string hanging from her right arm?
There was something on one of her wrists. I don't recall what it was, but I noticed it was some kind of cloth wrapped on something, and you could see blood on it.
Okay. And who was at the District 4 office? When you met?
Specifically for her, or just?
Yes, for her.
Medical staff and detectives that were working the case.
Was it Detective Steele?
I don't recall. There was a bunch of detectives that were there.
And you said it was just a few minute drive from the arrest scene to the District 4 office?
Yeah, it was about 3.5 miles, I think I said, something like that.
Okay. That's all the questions I have. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
Any redirect?
No, Your Honor.
May this witness be released by the state?
Yes.
And released by the defense?
Yes, sir.
Released. You may step down. You may be released as a witness at this time.
Bless you.
Thank you. I'll ask the state to please call your next witness.
State Host Corporal Richard Blair.
Corporal Blair. Wherever you're comfortable, once you get past that gate, if you'll face me and raise your right hand to be sworn as a witness. Thank you. Do you swear or affirm any testimony you give in this proceeding will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do, sir.
Thank you. If you'll follow the bailiff down to the ramp that leads up to the witness chair, please watch your step. Go ahead, have a seat, make yourself comfortable. That microphone in front of you is fully adjustable.
All right, thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Good afternoon, Corporal. Can you please introduce yourself to the jury?
My name is Corporal Richard M. Blair.
And how do you spell your last name?
B-L-A-I-R.
And how are you currently employed?
I'm employed with the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office.
How long have you been employed with them?
Almost 23 years.
What's your current assignment and duties?
I'm currently assigned as a supervisor in our special victims section, so I oversee crimes related with juveniles, sexual battery, internet predator stuff.
What was your assignment back in March of 2017?
Was assigned as a detective to the homicide section.
Were you originally assigned or given an assignment regarding an investigation of a listed suspect / defendant Trevor Summers?
I was.
And do you recall when you were given your first assignment with regards to this investigation?
Would have been March of 2017. I don't remember the date off the top of my head.
Okay. Do you have your report with you?
Yes, in my bag in the back.
Can you retrieve that? Can you retrieve the bag in the back?
Thank you.
When were you given your first assignment?
March the 12th of 2017.
And approximately what time?
Sorry, I missed that.
I'm sorry, March 12th, 2017. It was in the afternoon time.
Where did you need to respond to?
I needed to respond to what I was told was the incident scene or the location. At the time, I didn't know where I was, how everything played in, and so I responded to give you the exact address for my report.
Would looking at your report refresh your memory?
It would.
Please let me know when your memory's been refreshed.
It's been refreshed.
And what was the address?
1412 Dubloom Drive.
And when you responded there, did you meet with anybody?
I did.
And who did you meet with?
Corporal Charles King.
Did you get debriefed on the facts and circumstances surrounding this investigation thus far?
I did.
And what did you then do?
I was given a series of telephone numbers in an attempt to, then I was given instructions to make contact with those telephone numbers to see if there was any information that could be gleaned from the individuals with those phone numbers.
Were there any investigative leads with regards to those phone numbers that you followed up on that assisted in furthering the investigation?
We had attempted to make phone calls. I attempted to make phone calls to them, and most of the numbers I was not successful on. But those phone numbers were coming from cell phone records that we had obtained.
Okay. And those were cell phone records. Were they regarding from the Trevor Summers phone or from the victim's phone? Or did you know?
I did not know at the time.
What was your next assignment?
From there, I was given the assignment of assisting in processing of the residents at Dubloom.
And when you say assisting in processing the residents at Dubloom, what do you mean by that?
Okay, so in an investigation like this, the incident scene, and it was because it was a larger investigation, specific tasks were assigned. I was assigned, and the way that I was going to assist the lead detective in this case was I was going to be the scene detective. I was going to process the scene. And what that means is I'm going to work with our crime scene technicians, so the folks that are actually going to physically pick things up, take photographs, take measurements. I'm going to go in and I'm going to work with them inside of the residence, point out things that may be of evidentiary value, and then document the same on my report, and then ensure that the information that we are learning from inside the residence based on what we see in evidence is relayed back to the lead detective.
So on this date, did you meet with a crime scene investigator at the Dubloom residence?
I did.
And who was that crime scene investigator?
Jake Becker.
Was there a search warrant previously obtained prior to conducting the search and collection of evidence in the residence?
There was.
And what is a search warrant?
So a search warrant is going to be a court authorization for us to enter into, in this case, it was a premise, a residence, and seize any evidence related to a specific crime. So the process in which we go through with that is we have to outline on the document, we have to write out what we believe is the probable cause for us to be granted authority to go into this residence to obtain any type of physical evidence from there. Once we write that search warrant, it's approved by the state attorney's office and ultimately reviewed by a judge. And it's upon the review of the judge that if the judge does approve of it, then we're given the right to go in and seize and secure any evidence and process a location.
Was this still March 12th of 2017?
Yes, ma'am.
So is it fair to say the defendant nor the victim had been located at this time?
No, ma'am.
No interviews had been done with either one of them at this time?
Correct.
So you're going into this house with minimal information, is that fair to say?
At the time, we went in very minimal information.
May I approach the witness?
Yes, you may.
Corporal, I'm showing you what's already been introduced into evidence. It states exhibit set 1, A1 through 104. Have you previously looked through these photographs prior to trial?
Yes, I have.
And do they fairly and accurately depict the observations that you made on March 12th of 2017 when you entered the home?
Yes, they do.
And you worked along with crime scene investigator Becker in the collection of any evidence, is that correct?
Yes, I did myself, and then there was other detectives who were assisting me.
Is there a specific way that you go through the residence? Do you start on the outside and then go on the inside when you are conducting your initial investigation as a crime scene detective?
Yes, ma'am. We're going to go, the way that I would do it is I go inside of the residence, obviously through the point of entry, front door, and we're going to kind of work our way through from front to back. Once we've done that and we're doing more of a searching, then myself, or if there's other detectives present, they may be assigned specific rooms, like a detective being assigned a specific bedroom, and that's their responsibility to search, or the kitchen or the garage or other various locations. And so it's but it's systematic and it's detailed.
Now, were there interviews being conducted of the children at the time that you were conducting the search of the home?
I believe so, yes, ma'am.
Okay. As interviews are being conducted, I would assume by other detectives?
Yes, ma'am, not us.
Is that information being relayed to you as a crime scene detective as to possible evidence?
Yes, ma'am. What information they're able to get out to us, depending on taking breaks in the interview and so on and so forth, then, or via text message, or I'm sorry, not text message, phone calls. Then they'll send us, hey, we hear this, we hear that, and so the information comes to us at that point.
What were items of note that were collected during the search of this residence?
There were some notes that were collected from the garage area. There was some duct tape collected from a tool bag, as well as from a trash can inside of the kitchen. There was a water bottle collected. There was some scarves, linen, like clothing scarves that were collected.
Did you know whether or not, specifically the scarves, if that information came from the children or another detective that was relaying that while you were there?
That would have been relayed to me. I wouldn't have known that on my own.
Any other items of note that were collected from the residence at that time?
There were some other items in the trash can. Water bottle. There was, I believe, a jacket or if I can
at your report,
how I describe it in my report. I would
looking
refer
at
to
that, refresh your memory.
Yes, ma'am. Okay.
And how did you refer to it?
I refer to it as a white extra large sports jacket with a pink trim.
When you're there collecting items of evidence with the crime scene investigator, do you know that whether or not everything you collect has evidentiary value, or is it possible that some things you collect doesn't have any evidentiary value regarding the case?
Yes, ma'am. We don't, at that time, we didn't know what was evidence and what was not.
Okay. And is it possible that there were things at the home that were not initially collected when you and crime scene investigator Becca were there, that were ultimately found later on after the victim and the defendant were located?
Yes, ma'am.
Judge may approach the witness.
Okay.
Corporal, I'm showing you what's been pre-marked as States Exhibit B for identification purposes. Do you recognize this?
Yes.
And is this a, how is it that you recognize it?
It's a crime scene diagram of the children's bedroom at the residence on Dublu.
And is it a fair and accurate diagram of that bedroom?
Yes, ma'am.
State offers in evidence, States Exhibit B.
Any objection from the defense? No objection. B will be admitted.
Permission to publish?
You may publish.
Nearby in your area helps you build a natural defense against allergies.
Do you know why, Corporal, there was a diagram that was made of the children's room?
Yes, I do.
And why is that?
There was indications that this was the bedroom in which Mr. Summers had been let into by one of the children.
And is the window notated at the top left of the diagram?
Yes, ma'am. With a dimension.
With dimensions of that window?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you conduct any interviews of the children?
No, ma'am.
Were you requested to conduct any follow-up information with regards to any of the children?
I do not believe so.
Were you asked to follow up regarding any information regarding the path of travel that the 14-year-old Arden Summers took from her drive from the victim's residence to the defendant's residence?
Yes, ma'am.
And did you do that the same day, or was that a different day?
That was the same day, later in the evening.
And how did you go about doing that?
Made contact with Arden, and then I believe we used like Google Maps to be able to give a description of how the path of travel was.
Okay. And did you relay that information to supervisors?
I did.
Were you tasked with interviewing anybody else with regards to this investigation?
Yes, I was. I interviewed, I believe, Mr. Summers' father, via telephone.
And what was his name?
Looking at my report would refresh my
If you let me know. And Corporal, did you literally just leave testifying in another separate
yes,
trial?
I did.
Okay. And so please let me know when your memory's been refreshed.
Okay. It's been refreshed.
Who did you speak to?
Stephen Summers.
Okay. And you spoke to him over the phone?
Yes, I did.
Was he able to provide you information regarding where his son, the defendant, was, or the victim, Summers?
No, ma'am, he was not.
Did you later learn on March 13th of 2017 that the victim and the defendant had been located?
Yes, I did.
And were you tasked with anything at that point?
At that time, I was tasked with completing the proper documentation, the reports, the criminal report affidavits for associated with the arrest.
And then on a later date, specifically on November 13th of 2017, were you given another task regarding this investigation?
I was.
And what was that?
I was brought to court. I came to court based on a motion to collect a DNA buccal swab from Mr. Summers.
What is a DNA buccal swab?
It's a swab. It looks, the swab itself, it looks like a big Q-tip, and it's put in the mouth, and it takes all the skin cells and saliva from inside the cheek, the mouth, and then that's used for DNA comparison. That's sent to the lab and used for DNA comparison.
And is the lab that you're referring to called the Florida Department of Law Enforcement?
It is.
Okay. And how do you go about collecting the swab?
Hey, thank you, Just Junie. Thought of you, Gray, after reading an article about allergies. Not sure if it's true, but it's recommended if issues with pollen, especially ingesting local honey that's nearby your area, helps you build natural defense again. That'd be kind of weird. Everyone's wanting to eat pizza. Also, let's see. Oh yeah, have you guys, this guy looks really familiar to me. Have you guys seen this guy before?
At the time?
Yes, I put on latex gloves, and when I normally collect a swab, when I open the swabs itself, I give them to the individual, and they swab their own mouth, and then they put it back into this packaging, which is placed into an envelope, which is sealed, and then which is sent away, and then I remove my gloves.
And who specifically did you take the DNA buccal swab from on November 13th of 2017?
Trevor Summers.
Do you see him here in the courtroom today?
I do.
Can you please point to him and describe an article of clothing that he's wearing?
In a blue shirt, button up.
Please let the record reflect he has identified the defendant.
You may.
Corporal, I'm approaching with State's Exhibit N, as in Nancy. Do you recognize this item?
I do.
How is it that you recognize it?
It's my name and my initials across the seal, the evidence seal tape.
If you can please look inside. Let me know if you recognize the contents within.
Yes, ma'am. I recognize the white envelope that would have contained the swabs.
Is that in the same or substantially the same condition as it was on the date that you collected it, November 13th of 2017?
The same.
State
Or substantially the same.
State offers into evidence State's Exhibit N.
And is there any objection by the defense? N will be admitted.
Permission to have the corporal publish it, Judge?
May the corporal may publish it.
This is the white envelope. It's my writing right up there. This would be the packaging that contains the swabs.
And is the swab like a long Q-tip?
Yes, ma'am. This is this would be the tips of the swab, and then on the other end of it down here is cotton. I can pull them out if you want me to, or leave them in there.
Might as well.
Okay.
Thank you. Are you one of the individuals that conducts any of the DNA testing on these items?
No, ma'am. I'm not. Yep.
Did that conclude your duties with regards to this investigation?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
The witness, Judge.
Cross-examination, Mr. Summers.
Thank you. Good afternoon, sir.
Hello.
I just have a few questions. When you first responded to 14 Due Bloom Road, do you know approximately how many hours you were there that day?
In total, maybe 6 or 7.
6 or 7 hours?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And that would coincide with the photographs that were taken by Mr. Becker?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And so how does that work? I don't understand completely, but do you walk room by room with the photographer and point out things that you may believe of evidentiary value?
So the way the process works from the very beginning is the photographer is going to go in, and the first thing they're going to do is they're going to take overall photographs of everything. And with that, in that case, I would be at the front door, essentially watching him go from room to room, take photographs. From there, we're going to come back, and that's when we're going to go in and begin to mark items of evidence, potential items of evidence. And with that, yes, I'm walking with the crime scene investigator, or one of the other detectives is walking with the crime scene, in this case, Mr. Becker. And then as things are marked, they are photographed and then collected and photographed, and we go throughout the process.
Okay. Outside of this report that you're reading from, that we're referencing, that's included in the police report, do you have independent notes or recollection of observations you made that day?
No, sir, I do not.
Okay. The dirt you indicated on the windowsill of the window that they say was entered, that was the window on the side of the house?
Yes, sir.
You said you indicated dirt on the windowsill. Did you notice any dirt on the bed as well?
If I didn't document in my report, I may have not noticed it. It would be reflective in the photographs.
Okay. Did you happen to review any of the photographs after they are taken?
Immediately after? No, sir.
No.
I didn't review any photographs immediately after, no.
Between, at any point did you review the photographs?
In preparation for here, I reviewed the hundreds of photographs, yes.
Okay.
So,
did you notice in any of the photographs that there was dirt on the bed by that window?
I don't remember. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I don't remember even looking for that specifically.
Okay. You state on mine, it's page 291.
Okay.
It's page 3 of your report, that there was a water bottle on a dresser that was information received from Detective Steele.
Objection to improper question. He's reading from a report.
Excuse me. You can ask the question without reading from the report.
Excuse me, yes. If you would reference your report, sir, can you tell me how you received information from Detective Steele about a water bottle and why to mark a water bottle as evidence?
That was based on information that I received from Steele via phone call or being relayed to me.
Okay.
That it may have some involvement.
Okay. And if that water bottle was among other things would the other things be of evidentiary value too, or?
Again, at the time in which I was inside the residence, information is still coming in, so I didn't know what was and what wasn't. And with relation to the water bottle, it was indicated that specifically was, so that's why I went ahead and focused on it and collected it.
Okay. And would it be the same thing for the yellow tool bag in the garage? Was that a decision by you, or is information from someone else?
Well, that would have been, that's based on the contents found within the yellow tool bag. There was some duct tape that was recovered from there, which, as I write in my report, was consistent with the duct tape that was found in the trash can.
Okay.
Appeared to be consistent.
I understand that. And lastly, the is it maybe a typo, but did Arden Summers tell you that she drove from her father's house to her mother's house?
Objection, Judge Hearsay.
I'm sorry.
Well, hold on. Sustain.
Does your report say that Arden Summers drove from her
Objection,
father's
Judge
house?
Hearsay.
No, sustain.
Did you have any knowledge of Arden Summers driving from her father's house to her mother's house?
As I recall, or as I indicated, she gave us a path of travel, and I believe that may be part of what she told us.
Okay. No further questions. Thank you.
Corporal, when you say that items are marked and then collected,
Yes, ma'am.
so is it fair to say when you go through the residence, there's no yellow markers around initially?
No, ma'am. The first set of photographs, or first thing that we would see, there's no markers anywhere, and then from there things are marked.
And when we talk about markers, we're talking about these yellow plastic items with numbers on them.
Yes, ma'am. They either have numbers or letters.
And then they're photographed with the markers next to the item that is ultimately taken from the home.
Correct.
Nothing further, Judge.
Will be excused or released?
He's excused, Judge, and released from the state.
And released. Any objection to the corporal being released from the defense?
No, Your Honor.
Thank you, Corporal Blair. You may step down. You may be released as a witness at this time.
Thank you, Your Honor.
You're welcome. I'll ask the state to please call your next witness.
Judge, it's going to be Rita Hall.
Is that on the thing?
Yes.
Person in the waiting room, and they are identified by 860897. Is that them?
I haven't let them in because there's no name.
They're not here?
I haven't
Oh, there's
let
no
them
name.
in because there was no name.
Well,
I can admit
I believe that is her, Judge.
okay, we'll admit. Gentlemen of the jury, the next witness is going to testify via Zoom remotely. I will swear them on the screen as soon as we can see them. Witness that the state intends to call?
Yes.
And I apologize. What was her name?
Rita Hall.
Rita Hall. Is this Miss Hall?
Yes, it is.
All right, I'm Judge Sabella, and apparently you can hear me. I first want to ask you, can you see in the courtroom? Oh,
I
hold
can
on.
see you.
She has to go see the yeah. Okay. I appreciate that. We're setting up or completing the hookup in the courtroom. I need for you to be able to see Mr. Summers.
There you go. And I
All right.
have it facing Mr. Summers. You guys can
All right. Ms. Hall, can you see the gentleman in the blue shirt, button-down shirt?
Yes, I can.
Okay, excellent. All right, I need to swear you in, Ms. Hall. If you'll raise your right hand, please. You'll raise your right hand, please. Thank you. Do you swear or affirm any testimony you give in this proceeding will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God.
Yes, I do.
Thank you, ma'am. You put your hand down. You may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Hall, can you please state your name and spell your last name for the record?
I'm having trouble hearing.
Ms. Hall, can you please state your name and spell your last name for the record? Can you hear Ms. Hall? Can you hear me? Ms. Hall, can you hear me?
I can hear you now, yes.
Okay. Ms. Hall, can you please introduce yourself to the jury?
I'm sorry. Ask me that again.
Can you please introduce yourself to the jury?
My name is Rita Hall. I am an advanced registered nurse practitioner at the Crisis Center of Tampa Bay.
Ms. Hall, when did you become a nurse practitioner with the Crisis Center of Tampa Bay?
I became a nurse practitioner in 1974 and started working with the Crisis Center in 1987.
did you have any special training or courses that you took to become an employee as a registered nurse with the Crisis Center?
Yes, I have a master's degree in nursing from the University of South Florida, and I have received over 100 hours of training in the specialty of forensic examination.
And what do you mean by forensic examination?
Being able to do the evidence gathering exams on alleged rape victims.
And how many exams did you conduct on sexual assault victims while you worked at the Crisis Center?
Well over 1,000.
Did you have any special licenses for being a nurse practitioner that conducted sexual assault exams?
Yes, at the time I was certified as what's called a SANE, Sexual Assault Nurse Examiner, in both adult and pediatrics.
And did you maintain throughout your employment with the Crisis Center the continuing education that you needed for that certificate or licensing?
Yes.
The state will tender the witness.
Does Mr. Summers have any questions at this time of the witness regarding her qualifications in this area?
No, I do not. Thank you.
Thank you. You may proceed.
Ms. Hall, can you please explain the process of a person being seen at the Crisis Center for a sexual assault exam?
One of the nurse practitioners is on call, and we receive a call asking for an exam. Either the client can call us or law enforcement. Then we have guidelines, and we go through the guidelines with the person asking for the exam, and if it meets the criteria, then we have them come to the center where we do the exam.
When you speak to law enforcement, are you provided basic details as to the reason for the exam being needed?
I'm still having a little trouble hearing you.
When you speak to law enforcement, are you given some basic information as to the reason for the exam being needed?
Yes, because it needs to be within the last 120 hours, and we verify that that's the case, and then they also usually tell us a little bit about what to expect with the victim.
So I want to direct your attention to March 13th of 2017. Did you conduct an exam on Alyssa Summers?
Yes.
Did you meet with her at the Crisis Center?
Yes, I did.
When you first came into contact with her at the Crisis Center, did you obtain information from her as to what happened?
Yes.
And what is the purpose of obtaining that information from her?
Because I need to know where to gather the evidence, and so from the history she gives me, that tells me what I'm going to do in the exam.
And ultimately, were you then able to move on to actually conducting the exam with her after obtaining that information?
Yes.
So what did you do after getting the information from her?
Okay, what we do, when the patient arrives, we take her back into a quiet room. There's a counselor and myself, and then I ask her the basic questions. Like, I do a little bit of medical information, so I know if she has any health issues and allergies on medication. And then I go into the events of what happened, because I need to know, did she know this person? How did they get together? What happened while they were together? And how did she get away?
When you are conducting the actual physical exam of the patient, specifically Ms. Summers, are you then collecting any evidence?
Yes, I collect the evidence right as I go along. I have her get undressed, put on a gown, and sit on an exam table, and I do a head-to-toe exam. And also, while she's getting undressed, I take the clothes that she's wearing and package them up for evidence.
When you collect the evidence as you're going from head to toe, what type of evidence are you collecting?
I'm collecting any place where there might be something that came from the other person, such as saliva, blood, semen, anything like that.
How are you collecting that?
I take swabs, and I have sterile water that I put on them, and then I do two with the sterile water and two with a dry swab, and put them in little envelopes, and these then go to law enforcement, who takes them to the crime lab.
Are those envelopes labeled?
Yes.
Labeled for the area that you took the swab from?
Yes, it says exactly where I took it, and that I used the sterile water. And then as I take the evidence, I have a little paper that it goes into, and then it goes into a bigger envelope, and I label the envelopes before I start the exam so that I can seal them as soon as possible. and it has the patient's ID, it has the date of the exam, the area that I took the evidence from, and my initials and the date.
In addition to, well, let me ask you this, Ms. Hall, did you collect swabs of Ms. Summers on March 13th of 2017?
Yes.
And did you collect them in the way that you just described as using the sterile swabs, 2 of them with sterile water and then 2 of them without?
Yes.
Did you also take photographs?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
Did you also take photographs?
Yes, correct.
Ms. Hall, can you see me?
Yes, those are the ones that I collected.
I'm showing you what's been pre-marked as states K1 through 17. Did you have a chance to look at these prior to today?
Okay, I took photographs and I take a picture. I make a slip that shows the identification, and I take a picture of that, and then I take a picture of the client with that same ID tag.
Looking at States Exhibit K, did you see this before testifying today?
Yes, that's the evidence envelope that I collected.
Is it in the same or substantially same condition as when you collected the swabs and then placed them in this envelope? Is it in the same or substantially same condition, the kit in States Exhibit 12, of when you collected the swabs and then placed those swabs in this bigger envelope?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this time the state moves into evidence States Exhibit K.
Any objection to K? No objection. K will be admitted.
And Judge, may I publish?
Yes.
I'm going to try and do it from here, but loudly.
Whatever you need to do.
Ms. Hall, you indicated that some of the envelopes the envelopes are labeled. And in this case, I'm showing you one of the envelopes and it's labeled vaginal swabs.
Some of the envelopes are pre-labeled, and they're just a standard that we take. And then when it's something specific, such as if I'm looking for saliva, then that's when I write on the envelope.
Okay, specifically regarding the vaginal swabs that you collected, are those swabs that you collect up inside the vagina of the patient?
Yes, I take an external swab first, 4 swabs, 2 wet, 2 dry, put those into one envelope. Those are called the perineal. And then I put a speculum in, and I look into the vagina, and I take swabs from the cervical area, and then I also take swabs from the cervix itself, and they're in 2 separate envelopes. It says vaginal and cervical.
Do you also collect swabs of the external genitalia?
Yes.
And what is the purpose of that?
The idea is that if the person was up walking around and there was ejaculation, that some of the fluids are on the outside, and so we collect from the outside.
Now, when you're collecting the history from the patient prior to collecting these swabs, do you ask if the patient has either showered, taken a bath, used the restroom since the last offense?
Yes. I do that when I'm doing the interview.
And what is the purpose of asking those questions?
I'm sorry, ask that again, please.
What is the purpose of asking those questions?
Because we need to know, did she wash off afterwards? Like, did she take a shower and really scrub her body good? Because then you lose the evidence.
So when you do a sexual assault exam, what physical findings are you looking for?
I'm looking for any bruising, anything that looks irregular, and I still take swabs even if everything looks normal.
If a patient describes to you a sexual assault having taken place and you don't observe any findings, does that automatically mean that some sexual activity did not happen?
No, it just means that for some reason that there are no actual injuries that you can see.
And is the fact that there may not be actual injuries you see to the patient's genitalia or vagina, I'm sorry, I'll strike that question, Ms. Hall. Is it possible for there to not be any injuries?
Yes, in about half of the cases, there are no injuries that we see at all.
Now, in the examination of Ms. Summers, you noted that there was some redness to her external genitalia. Can you describe what that means?
I have to refer to my pictures.
Oh, and I apologize. It was redness to the labia. And if referring to your photographs would help refresh your memory regarding that, please do so. But once you're done looking at them, please look up back at the camera and then tell us what the significance is.
Okay. I do not see a diagram of the vaginal area. So at this time, I can't comment on that unless you have the colposcope pictures.
Okay. In addition to the sexual assault exam, did you do what's called a strangulation assessment?
Yes, because she said that she had something around her neck, and so we assessed for any injuries there, and that to make sure that she is breathing okay and swallowing, and that there's no injuries that are life-threatening.
And after that assessment was done, did you refer Ms. Summers to seek additional medical treatment as a result of the strangulation assessment?
Okay, according to the pictures, there were marks on her neck that would document that something was on her neck with enough pressure to make changes in the skin.
And is that why you referred her to seek additional medical treatment?
Yes, because sometimes the swelling in the throat and neck don't show up right away, and so we want to make sure that she does a follow-up so that if she has any trouble, she'll be able to get medical attention.
May I have a moment, Judge?
Yes.
I'm going to pass the witness.
Mr. Summers, cross-examination?
Yes, thank you.
You're going to have to be louder. You can come up in this area here.
Okay.
Oh, but you know,
she has her volume up.
her volume, I'll ask her to turn her volume up, but he actually has to be on the camera.
If you mute your whole
I will
computer,
mute my whole
I can
computer.
put my volume on my computer and we won't have feedback. I'm sorry, it was here. Summers, just turn it up. Yeah. All right, you just need to talk into here. She'll be able to see you and hear you.
Okay.
Okay.
Good afternoon, Ms. Hall.
Good afternoon.
You can hear me okay?
I can hear you fine, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hall. Let me ask you, does any of your evaluation allow you to draw any conclusions from the exams that you make?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the last part of that.
Does any of your evaluation of a victim allow you to draw any conclusions from the exam?
From what I saw, I can say that the history that she gave me, the findings such as the redness, were consistent with that history she gave me. Now, I was not there, so I can't say. All I can say that it was consistent.
And what redness are you referring to?
Just because there was redness, it was a small, thin red line, and there are pictures documenting that, and that would be indication that something thin, like a robe or a scarf or something, had put pressure there.
And Ms. Hall, if you look at your diagram, is this diagram?
Yes, I have it.
Can you tell me if there is a indication of a red line on which side of the neck?
Okay, the back upper picture shows that red line. And also, there is a photograph of the same thing.
We'll wait for that noise.
I'm sorry, I can't reach the phone from where I am.
It's okay. It's a nice ringtone.
It should shut off in another second or so.
That's what I was hoping.
There, okay.
All right.
But in the diagram, it's the upper right diagram of the back view.
Yes.
I have the line, the red line that was there.
Yes.
And then also, on the bottom half of the page, the lower right, you also can see that red line. And then I also took photographs of the same thing.
Yes, and can you tell me what side of the neck that is on?
That would be her left.
Okay. Was there any on
And then the back.
Is there any on the right side?
No.
No. Okay. And and just so I'm clear, Ms. Hall, the marks that you've indicated on this diagram do not draw any conclusions about what happened to the victim, correct?
That's my documentation of what happened.
It's your documentation of the marks, but it doesn't. You can't draw conclusions on how those marks got there, correct?
Correct.
Okay. That's all the questions I have. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Any redirect?
Yes. Ms. Hall, you indicated that as far as the bruising goes and the strangulation assessment you conducted, the reason you referred Ms. Summers for additional medical treatment is due to the possibility that bruises don't always appear immediately after the incident, right?
That's correct.
So even though you didn't notice any bruising on the right side of her neck when you examined her on March 13th of 2017, there was always the possibility that there could be bruising on the right side of her neck.
That's correct, yes.
I have nothing. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
You can continue, ma'am. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I apologize.
Sometimes it takes 24 hours or later for these marks to show up.
The bruising?
Such as, because it only showed up on one side, it could have been the next day we would have seen marks on the other side of the neck.
Thank you. Nothing further from the state.
All right, may this witness be released by the state?
Yes, she is released.
And released by the defense?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. You may be released as a witness at this time.
I am released? Okay, thank you.
You may be released. She couldn't hear me. What? So, I'll ask the state to please call the next witness.
The state would next call Ms. Shea.
She is also by Zoom, and she is in. I'm going to admit her. She should pop up. Ms. Shea. Is this Ms. Shea? Hold on. Is this Ms. Shea?
Yes, it is.
All right, Ms. Shea, I'm going to need to swear you in. I'm Judge Sabella. And first of all, I want to make sure that you can see the gentleman in the blue shirt.
Yeah.
Okay. If I could have you raise your right hand, please. Do you swear affirm any testimony you give in this proceeding will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? All right, you can put your hand down. You may proceed.
Ms. Shea, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Can you please state your first and your last name, spelling your last name?
Oh, I'm sorry, you actually cut out a little bit.
Can you please state your first name and your last name?
It's Kimberly Shea.
And how do you spell your last name?
S-H-E-A.
And where are you currently living?
I am in State College, Pennsylvania.
And are you currently going to school?
Yes, I am a student at Penn State.
And what year are you?
I am a senior.
In what area of town did you live in March of 2017?
I lived in Lithia, Florida.
Did you have an occasion to go to a Walgreens on March 11th of 2017?
Yes.
And can you tell me why you went to that Walgreens that night?
My sister and I went to Walgreens. We were going on a cruise the next day, and she needed a phone case. So I just drove her to the local Walgreens.
How old were you at that time?
I was 16 years old.
And what happened when you arrived at that Walgreens?
Oh, I'm sorry.
What happened when you arrived at that Walgreens?
Yeah, so I was pulling into a spot. I saw a car in one spot, and a man was talking to someone in the car from the passenger side. And there was another spot with a blanket in the middle. And so I just parked in the spot to the right of that.
Now, do you recall what kind of vehicle it was that you observed?
Yes, it was a dark blue SUV, either, I think it was a Saturn Outlook or a GMC Acadia.
When you arrived there, were you parked on the driver's side of that vehicle or the passenger side of that vehicle?
The passenger side.
And you were driving that vehicle, your vehicle?
Yes, I was driving my vehicle.
Did you know this, could you tell if the person in the passenger seat was male or female?
I could not tell if it was a male or female until the man talking to that person walked around to the driver's side and got to the car.
When you made these observations, could you hear any of the communication that was taking place between the man and the woman?
No.
Did you could you see the male's face when he was talking to the woman?
No.
When he moved from the passenger side and walked over to the driver's side, could you see the female?
Yes.
What observations did you make of her?
She looked distressed. It just looked like they were kind of in an argument. She just looked kind of anxious, upset, distressed. Again, that was just basically.
Did she make any comments to you?
No, I do not believe she saw me.
Oh, okay. And you stated that you saw some kind of blue item that was left in a parking spot?
Yes.
Where was this blue item?
It was kind of in the middle of the spot, right next. It was on the right of the vehicle.
So on the driver's side or the passenger side of that vehicle?
The passenger side.
And was that in the parking spot directly next to the vehicle that the man and woman were in?
Yes.
And then did you park in the parking spot then on the other side of the blanket?
Correct, yes.
Okay. Did you observe how the vehicle left? Or did you see the vehicle leave?
I did see the vehicle leave. It left rather quickly. I just believe the man got into the driver's side and just really no time, just pulled out and left.
Did you see anything that happened before the female being put in the vehicle?
No, I did not.
When you pulled up to the parking spot, was the female already in the vehicle?
Yes.
Ultimately, did you and your sister enter the Walgreens?
We did, yes.
Did you make any purchases?
We did, yes.
And then what did you do?
We went back home and it turned out the phone case that we bought was broken. So my sister and my mother returned to Walgreens.
Did you return to Walgreens with your sister and your mother?
No.
Were you informed? Were you informed that you needed to return to the Walgreens?
Yes, I did.
Who told you that?
My mother called and said that police officer wanted to speak to me.
Did you return to the Walgreens?
Yes, I did.
Did you speak to law enforcement and tell them your observations when you were there previously with your sister?
Yes, I did.
Judge, may I have a moment?
Yes.
Witness, Judge.
Cross-examination, Mr. Summers?
Yes, thank you. Good afternoon, Ms. Shea. How are you?
Good afternoon.
I just had a few questions for you. Could you tell me maybe how far away from the Saturn vehicle you were you parked?
Yes, I was at 2 spots to the right of the vehicle.
So do you believe that's 20 to 30?
On the passenger side.
Do you believe that's 20 to 30 feet away?
Yes.
Okay, and you had a clear view into that Saturn vehicle?
Not a extremely clear. It was dark out. It was maybe 9:15 at night. It was darker out, but I could just see the passenger and then the driver.
Okay, you said it looked like she was distressed. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And
yes.
So you could see her face.
Yes, I could.
Okay, and so you would say that's the best description of her demeanor, that she was distressed?
Distressed, upset, anxious, but definitely more distressed.
Okay, and could you show for us any movements that you observed of that female?
I don't believe I saw any movements. I only believe her head was leaning up against, I believe it was her arm, but I am not completely certain.
Do you recall in our deposition your description of her arm on the window sill and like her cheek was leaning on it? Would you say that was that's an accurate statement?
That is what I believe I saw.
Okay.
Yes.
And so you saw her face clearly, you saw her arm on the windowsill with her head leaning on that. Could you just give us a little movement of yourself?
Kind of like, more of like against the windowsill, and then her head was leaning.
Thank you. And you said when the vehicle left, it left rather quickly. Did it didn't avoid any standby pedestrians, or didn't attempt to ignore the lane it was in or anything like that?
I don't think so, no.
No. And did it drive in front of you, or did you already go into the store when it left?
It drove, it already left when I was walking into the store.
Okay, so as you were leaving your vehicle, it was leaving?
Yes, correct.
Okay, well, that's all the questions I have. Thank you, Ms. Shea.
Thank you. Any redirect?
Yes, Judge. Ms. Shea, did you complete a written statement regarding your observations from that night?
I did, yes.
Did you put anything in your written statement regarding seeing the victim's hands on the windowsill at all?
I did not. No.
Okay. So 5.5 years later, that's what you believe you saw?
Yes.
Okay. Are you 100% sure that that's what you saw, or you're assuming?
I'm not.
Oh, wait, hold on. There's an objection. Wait, I'm sorry, ma'am.
1 minute.
Hold on.
Judge needs
Legal
to.
basis.
I would say meeting, Your Honor.
Rephrase. Sustained, rephrase.
Yes, Your Honor. Ms. Shea, that statement regarding her arm, is that included in your written statement?
It is not, no.
Do you include in your written statement about Ms. Summers, or this female, being distressed?
Yes, correct.
Do you include in your statement about the blanket?
I did, yes. I believe I said it was either a blanket or a towel, some cloth of those sorts.
Did you include a description of this female and this male in your written statement?
I did, yeah.
Is your written statement very descriptive as to what you saw?
Yes, I believe so.
And there's nothing in the written statement about seeing her arm or her head against the window. Is that correct?
There is not, correct, yes.
Nothing further, Judge.
All right.
The state would release the witness.
And the defense agreed to release the witness?
Yes, I have a call on my witnesses.
Okay. Well, do you want to release her, though, or do you intend to recall her?
I intend to recall her on the defense.
Is she under subpoena?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So, ma'am, you're... Oh, she can't hear me? Let me... Ma'am, you're excused as a witness at this time. You may be recalled, so you're not released as a witness. Okay, she heard me. She's nodding. All right. Can I close all of this? State, call your next witness. Oh, I'm sorry. We'll give it a minute while she clears the podium. Witness.
The state would call Bryn Summers.
Bryn Summers. Ms. Summers, good evening and welcome. If you'll come forward to be sworn as a witness wherever you're comfortable, if you'll face me and raise your right hand, please. Thank you. Do you swear or affirm any testimony you give in this proceeding will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I swear to tell
All
the truth.
you have to do is say yes. Alrighty. You may put your hand down. No need to be nervous. The bailiff is going to show you the path to the witness stand. Please watch your step. I apologize for confusing you.
You're fine.
Go ahead, have a seat, make yourself comfortable. I'm going to need you to get a little closer to that microphone, and it is fully adjustable. Sometimes you got to get pretty close to these microphones. If you're too close, we'll tell you. If you're not close enough, we'll tell you to get a little closer.
Okay.
All right, you may proceed.
Can you please tell us your first and your last name, spelling your first name and your last name?
Bryn Summers. BRYNSUMMERS.
And Ms. Summers, how old are you?
13.
And so 5.5 years ago, you were approximately 7?
Yes.
Do you know what it means to tell a truth and tell a lie?
Yes.
Okay. Can you tell me what it means to tell the truth?
Like saying the sky is blue in the morning.
Okay. And can you tell me what it means to say what a lie is?
The sky is purple.
And is it a good thing or a bad thing to tell a lie?
A bad thing?
Do you know what it means to make a promise?
Yes.
What does it mean to make a promise?
To, like, you promise to pay something back, or like promise to give something back.
And then if you don't give it back after you made that promise, did you keep your promise or break your promise?
Break the promise.
And is it a good thing or a bad thing to break a promise?
A bad thing?
Okay. Moving on to March of 2017. Do you remember back to March of 2017?
Sort of.
Okay. Do you know who your mother is?
Yes, she's in a pink sweater.
And what is her name?
Elisa Mathewson.
And who is your biological father?
Trevor Summers.
Do you see him here in the courtroom today?
Yes, ma'am.
And can you please tell me what color shirt he's wearing?
Blue.
Please let the record reflect she has identified the defendant.
The record shall so reflect.
Do you remember back when something happened, you had to speak to the police in March of 2017?
Yes.
Back then, were your parents married or were they separated?
Separated. Divorced.
I'm sorry?
Divorced.
Okay. And were they living in separate homes at that time?
Yes.
And did you stay at both of your parents' homes?
Back and forth.
Okay. At your mother's house, where is it that you typically slept?
Some nights we slept in her room, some nights we slept in our bedrooms.
And did you share a bedroom?
In my room there was 2 beds, 2 twin-size beds, and then in my brother's room there was like a smaller bed and another twin-size bed.
Okay. And I'm talking about your mom's house back in March of 2017.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Publishing set 1, A68. Bryn, you can look at the screen right there. Do you remember this bedroom?
Yeah.
Do you remember this bedroom being your mother's bed, your mother's house in March of 2017?
Yes.
Okay. And so were there 3 beds in that bedroom?
I think that pink bed got switched into the other room, and I think there was 1 bed in that room then.
Okay. So do you remember this bedroom being this way on the last night that you spent the night at your mom's house that you saw your dad?
I do not remember.
Okay. That night on March 10th of 2017, that you went to stay with your mom, what other siblings went with you that night?
Grady, Arden.
Grady and Arden?
And myself, yeah.
And yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Is Grady younger or older than you?
Younger.
How much younger is he than you?
2 years.
So that night that you go to your mom's house, do you remember what you did that night?
We watched a movie on the couch.
And what room in the house was that?
The living room.
And at some point, do you go to sleep?
Yeah.
And where do you go to sleep that night?
I slept in my mom's bed.
And,
with Grady.
Did anybody else sleep in that bed?
My mom and Grady.
And do you remember where you slept in that bed that night? Was it in the middle or on one of the sides?
The middle.
And is there something that woke you up that night?
Yes.
Those early morning hours.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me what woke you up.
My dad.
And when you say your dad woke you up, how did he wake you up?
Not specifically. Sorry. Not like myself, but like I think either Grady woke up or my mom woke up, and then I woke up like.
And when you woke up, what did you hear or see?
Yelling.
Yelling? Who was yelling?
My mom.
Do you remember what she was saying?
No, I do not remember.
Do you know who she was yelling at?
Yes.
Who was she yelling at?
Trevor.
And where was your mother when you heard this yelling?
She was like farther away from like the end of the bed, so like near the bathroom.
Was she still on the bed?
No.
Was she on the floor?
No. Like
was she standing up?
Standing, yeah.
And where was Grady?
Next to me in the bed, on my right side.
And what is do you say anything at that time?
No, I just kind of like was like in shock. Yeah.
Was Trevor saying anything?
I do not remember.
Did you see if Trevor was wearing anything on him?
Jeans. Jeans and 2 scarves in his pocket.
When you say 2 scarves from his pocket, what do you mean by that?
They were hanging out of his 2 back pockets.
Okay. Do you remember what color these scarves were?
Orange, and like the other one was like a cream color.
Had you seen those scarves before?
Yes, they were owned by my sister.
And when you saw those, they were in his back pockets?
Yes.
Okay. Did your mother and Trevor stay in the bedroom?
No, they kind of walked out the bedroom to the hallway to like the living room.
And did you go out into the living room as well, or did you stay in the bedroom?
Kind of like going to the bedroom and then like bedroom to the living room and then like back.
Okay. And were you able to stay out in the living room with your mom, or did you have to go back to the bedroom?
I had to go back to the bedroom.
Why did you have to go back to the bedroom?
I'm not sure.
And did your mother return to the bedroom?
No, I don't.
Where was she at?
She was on the couch.
Where did you see her on the couch?
The couch near the wall.
Okay. Publishing set 1, A22. When you say the couch near the wall, do you mean the couch that I'm pointing to with the pillows on it, or the couch that does not have the pillows on it?
The couch with no pillows.
Okay. And where was she on that couch when you saw her? Was she closest to the lamp or furthest away from the lamp?
In the middle.
And the pillows, were they on the ground as well when you saw her?
I do not remember.
Were you worried about your mom or Trevor?
Yes, very.
And why were you worried?
I just didn't understand what was going on until after. Yeah, I didn't understand what was going on.
Could you hear what was being said between your mother and Trevor?
I do not remember. Just a lot of screaming.
And who was screaming?
My mom.
Did you hear Trevor screaming?
I do not remember.
When you were in the bedroom, is that when you heard the screaming, or was it when you were out in the family room?
Both. Well, actually, in the bedroom. More of in the bedroom until it kind of stopped when I went out into the living room.
Did you ever yell out to your mom from the bedroom?
Sort of. I kind of went to the living room to check on her, basically.
Why did you check on her?
Just to make sure everything was okay.
Were you worried about her safety?
Yes.
Do you know why you were worried about her safety?
No.
When you first heard the screaming and yelling, and you saw your mom and Trevor, did you see Arden? Was she in the bedroom?
I do not remember.
Did you see Arden at all that night?
No.
Or those early morning hours, the early morning hours of March 11th of 2017?
No.
Did you stay at your mom's house all night until the next morning?
Until the early morning. That was when my sister drove us home.
Okay. So tell me about that. How did you see Arden then?
She was waiting in the car.
Okay. Did you see Arden in the house, or did you see her in the car?
She came inside and she told us, me and Grady, to get into the car, and then Bannon was in the car too.
Okay. So when Arden came into the house and told you and Grady to get in the car, did you go get in the car?
Yes.
And where was your mom when you went and got in the car?
She was still on the couch.
The couch that we pointed out earlier?
Yes.
When
you got to the car, whose car was this?
Isn't this crazy? I mean, just the fact that this father, this psycho, and notice how she called him by his first name, not dad or anything. And he knows that his daughter is going to have to testify, and he does it anyways, knowing that he knows what he did.
Okay. Can I put to witness?
You may.
Brandon, I'm showing you what's been marked for trial purposes as J1 through 34. Do you recognize the vehicle, the car that's in these photographs?
Yes.
And whose car do you recognize it to be?
Trevor's.
Is this how his vehicle, Trevor's vehicle, looked when you got in it when Arden came to get you?
Yes.
State offers in evidence, State's Exhibit J1 through 34.
Any objection?
No objection.
J1 through 34 is admitted.
Permission to publish?
You may vote.
Bryn, was this car a minivan?
Yes.
Publishing J2. Is that the front of the minivan?
Yes.
When you got into that vehicle, where did you go to sit?
The captain seats.
The captain seats?
Yeah.
Is that what you said?
Yes.
Do you remember which side of the vehicle? Did you sit behind the driver or did you sit behind the passenger?
Behind the driver.
Behind the driver.
Mm-hmm. So I want to show you J18. This
This is the second row, and there is a seat that's missing from the minivan. So would you have sat in the third row, or would you have sat behind the passenger?
Yeah, I sat in the third row.
Okay.
Behind the passenger seat.
So did you sit back behind?
No, behind the driver's seat, I meant.
The driver's seat. So on the third row behind the driver's seat?
Yes.
Okay, that I'm pointing to in the picture back here?
Yes, that's why I thought I sat in the second, the driver's seat, the captain's seat behind the driver's seat.
Okay. Do you know where this captain's seat was?
I think it was either, I don't know if it was like, I feel like it was tucked into like the like car, because there's like a compartment that you can
like down into the, like tucked down in, and then you can bring it back up if you want to use it?
Yes.
Okay. So was Grady with you when you got in the car?
Yes, he was in the captain's seat.
In the captain's seat, meaning behind the passenger seat?
Yes, and Landon was in the passenger seat.
Okay. I see a booster in the third row behind the passenger. Who used that booster?
Cooper.
Did you see Cooper at your mom's house that night?
No.
When you got to the car, you had mentioned that you saw Landon.
Yes.
Is Landon your brother?
Yes.
And is he older or younger than Arden?
Younger.
And so when you got in the car with Grady, did Arden get in the car?
Yes.
And what happened when Arden got in the car?
She drove the car, and Landon said many times that he can drive the car if she cannot drive it.
So did Landon want to drive the car too?
Yes.
Okay. So where did Arden drive to?
To Trevor's house.
Did Arden have a driver's license then?
No, she was 14.
What were you thinking when Arden was driving you and Grady and Landon to Trevor's house?
I was still processing everything that was going on, and yeah, it was just, she was like, okay, I'm just going to go slow. I'm going to drive like an old man, basically.
Is that what she said?
Yes.
Okay. Is that how she drove?
Yes, very slow.
And she drove to Trevor's house?
Yes.
You said Landon was talking about he wanted to drive. Did he end up driving too?
No.
And when you got to Trevor's house, what did you do?
I do not remember.
Did you go into the house?
Yes.
And did you stay there that day?
Yes.
Did the police later come to that house?
Yes.
And did you speak to the police?
Yes.
Were you afraid that Arden was going to get in trouble when you spoke to the police?
Yes.
Afraid she was getting in trouble for driving?
Yeah.
Okay. Did you tell the police what you saw happening at your mom's house?
Yes. I think I remember, well, I probably remember more back then than I do now.
You think you remembered more back then than you do 5.5 years later?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Maybe a moment, Judge.
Hello, Ms. Ray.
Hello.
I'll just ask you a few things about that. I'm glad you remember some things. It's very helpful. Do you remember, Ms. Ray, if I was yelling anything back at Mommy?
No.
You remember if I was saying anything at all?
No, I don't remember.
You don't remember? Do you remember when Arden came into the house?
Yes.
And where were you and Grady when Arden came into the house?
We were in Mom's bedroom.
Okay. Do you remember me and Mom coming into the bedroom too?
No, I don't remember.
You remember before you left, do you remember seeing Mom and I sitting on the bed in the bedroom?
I do not remember.
You don't remember. You said you didn't understand what we were talking about. Is that correct?
Yeah, I didn't.
You didn't know. Do you remember if Mom was yelling at Dad? Or do you remember if Mom was more or less kind of bossing Dad around?
I think she was more of just yelling at you.
Did she sound mad at me?
More of like worried or scared.
Worried or scared, okay. And when you guys were riding home, do you remember, were you all scared or were you laughing, or how was your ride home?
It was very scary for Arden. She was crying the whole time.
Do you remember if Landon was on the phone with anybody in the car?
No, I do not remember.
You don't remember? Do you know any idea how long you and Grady were waiting for Mom and I to get done in the living room?
Above 30 minutes.
About 30 minutes, you think so?
Yeah,
Okay.
more than 30 minutes.
Yeah. Were you getting tired of waiting for us?
I don't really know.
You don't know. When you went back to my house later that day, did you get asked lots of questions by the police?
Yes.
And after they asked you guys questions, did they ask you to leave the house?
I do not remember.
You remember Miss Melissa?
Yes.
Did she drive you anywhere after that day?
I do not remember.
Do you remember going to Mom Carol and Papa Steve's house?
Yes.
Okay. And that was after you got done talking to the police?
I don't remember.
I don't remember. And you said that you saw two scarves kind of hanging out of my pockets.
Mm-hmm.
And you said that they came from your sister?
Yes.
What do you mean they came from your sister?
They were owned by my sister. They were my sister's scarves.
They were your sister's scarves?
Yes.
Yeah. Do you think that you saw them in the house there earlier?
I don't remember.
You don't remember? Okay. Well, that's all the questions I have for you. It's good to see you.
Redirect.
Bryn, you were asked about the scarves and that your dad, Trevor, had these scarves. Do you remember what you told the police about why you thought he had the scarves?
I do not remember.
Would looking at your statement as to what you told the police, would that help your memory?
Sure.
Judge may approach the witness. Bryn, if you can read this statement for me, read it to yourself, and let me know when you're done reading it, okay?
I'm sorry, excuse me. Where? Can you tell them what the item is? Actually, go show it to them before you have her. Just to refresh your recollection with it. Show it to the defendant. What is it? Tell me what it is.
It's the summary of her statement, Judge, and the police report.
What's your objection?
That's not her transcribed interview. It's a rewritten by Detective Steele, who's not here.
Anything can be used to refresh a witness's memory if it refreshes. So she can read it and see if it refreshes. It may not refresh her memory, but anything can be used to refresh a witness's memory. So you may approach, allow her to read it and see if it refreshes her memory.
Yes, Bryn, this is your statement that you told the police. If you can read
Well,
it.
hold on. Identify it correctly.
It is your statement that is summarized by the detective that you spoke to at Trevor's house.
So this is a summary of her statement.
Correct.
Okay.
If you can read it and let me know if it helps you remember. Does it help you remember why you thought your dad had those scarves?
Yes.
And why did he have those scarves?
So my mom and dad ran an argument, so I thought that I was to tie my mom up somewhere.
Okay. Did you ever see your mom throw anything at Trevor?
Yes, it was a blue water bottle. It was like a sippy cup.
And whose sippy cup was that?
My mom's.
Is that something that she had with her when she went to sleep that night?
Yes.
Did you ever see your dad touch your mom's feet?
No, I don't remember.
Okay.
I remember Landon driving into the neighborhood.
You remember Landon driving into the neighborhood?
I remember them pulling over and they switched seats.
So did you remember that once you read the summary of your statement?
Yes.
Okay. So tell me about that.
So they switched seats and then at the front of the neighborhood, Arden pulled over and they switched seats, and Arden was very overwhelmed.
Arden was overwhelmed with the driving
So Landon just drove the rest of the way.
to Trevor's house?
Yes.
Okay. Was that once you got into the neighborhood?
Yes.
Just a moment.
Yes. And this young lady be released as a witness by the state?
Yes, sir.
And by the defense?
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much, ma'am. You may step down and you may be released as a witness at this time. We're going to keep going because I don't think that the food is here for the jury, so we're going to ask the state to please call their next witness.
Yes, Your Honor. We would call Arden Summers.
Arden Summers. Now let me let you know that if it gets here, did we already do the witness that had the 6:30 issue?
Judge, I just mentioned it tomorrow morning.
Okay, so that's not an issue. So then when the pizza gets here for the jury, we're going to take a break. So they're going to let me know, and wherever we're at in the next witness, we'll just take a short break.
Yes, Your Honor.
And I apologize, the next witness was Arden Summers, is that correct?
Correct.
Yes. Ms. Summers, good evening and welcome. If you'll come forward through that gate, and then wherever you're comfortable, if you'll face me and please raise your right hand to be sworn as a witness. Thank you. Do you swear or affirm any testimony that you may give in this proceeding will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. If you'll follow the bailiff to the ramp that leads up to the witness chair, please watch your step. When you get to that chair, go ahead, have a seat. Please make yourself comfortable, and that microphone in front of you is fully adjustable.
I think just Junie misspoke. She just means the biological father here. You know, the one that's the bald-headed guy that's the his own attorney. You know, Trevor. That's who she was talking about.
If you're too far away, you might have to get a little closer, but usually you have to get fairly close to them for it to amplify your voice. Whenever you're ready, I'll let the let them proceed.
Okay, I'm ready.
You may proceed.
Good evening. Can you please tell us your first and your last name, spelling your first name?
My name is Arden Summers, A-R-D-E-N.
And how old are you?
I am 19.
And how old were you back in March of 2017?
I was 14.
And who is your mother?
My mother is Elisa Mathewson.
And who is your father?
Trevor Summers.
Do you see him here in the courtroom today?
Yes, I do.
And can you please point to him and describe an article of clothing that he's wearing for me?
He's right in front of me and he's wearing a blue shirt.
Please let the record reflect she has identified the defendant.
The record shall so reflect.
And do you have any siblings?
I do.
And who are your siblings?
Landon Summers, Bryn Summers, Grady Summers, and Cooper Summers.
And are you the oldest?
Yes.
When was the last time that you saw and spoke to Trevor Summers?
The last time I saw and spoke to him was March 11th of 2017.
And do you remember the night preceding and the early morning hours of March 11th of 2017?
Yes.
Back then in March, were your parents living together or were they living separately?
They were living separately.
And were they going through the divorce process?
Yes.
Were you staying with both of your parents or mainly one of your parents?
At the time I was staying with mainly one.
And which parent was that?
That was Trevor Summers.
And why is that?
Due to some things that I had become upset about.
Were you upset the fact that they were getting divorced?
Yes.
Okay. Were you upset about an incident that had occurred in February that you heard about?
Yes.
Were you upset that your mom was moving on from the marriage with your father and dating?
At that time, yes.
Okay. Did you know who she was dating?
Yes.
And who was that person?
That was Jeff Mathewson.
And is she now married to him?
Yes.
Would your mother ever video chat or speak to Jeff or anybody that she may have been dating during this time, February or March of 2017?
Not while I was present.
Okay. On March 10th of 2017, that evening, where were you going to be staying the night?
At my mother's.
And who did you end up staying the night with at your mother's? Which siblings?
Bryn and Grady.
And where were your other siblings, Landon and Cooper?
They were at my dad's house.
And that night on March 10th, what did you do when you got to your mother's house?
We watched a movie for a little bit, and then after the movie was over, my siblings and my mom went to sleep.
Where were you going to sleep that night?
I was going to sleep on the couch.
Is that where you typically slept?
No, I usually, when I was with my mom, slept in her bed with her.
Okay. That night, where did Grady and Bryn sleep?
They slept with my mother.
Was there a plan that was to take place that night
Yes.
when you were at your mom's?
Yes.
What was the plan?
The plan was to let my dad into my mom's house so he could speak to her about some stuff.
And whose idea was this for you to let him in the house?
This was my dad's idea.
Did you agree to do that?
Yes.
Did you know why he wanted to go in the house to speak to your mother?
He only told me that he wanted to speak to her about some legal stuff.
Okay. And did you agree to participate in this plan with him?
Yes.
At this time in March of 2017, how many phones did you have?
I had 2.
And did you utilize both of those phones?
Yes.
Why did you have 2 phones at the age of 14?
One was from my mother and one was from my father.
Now, this plan, was this the first time that it was discussed that this plan was going to take place on March 10th of 2017?
No.
When was it discussed previously?
It was previously discussed a few days before it had occurred. We were originally planning on just me going over there alone, and it didn't end up working out.
Why didn't it end up working out?
My mom and I had gotten into an argument about my dad, and so I had been taken home.
Were you protective of your father during this time?
Yes.
The night of March 10th of 2017, moving into the early morning hours of March 11th of 2017, did you communicate with Trevor Summers?
Yes.
And how did you communicate with him?
Via Google Hangouts.
Is that an application?
Yes, text message.
And did you communicate with your brother Landon?
Yes.
And how old was he at the time?
Landon was 12 at the time.
Was the plan, was this discussed, or was the plan for you all to be communicating that night?
Yes.
And what was the plan with regards to the communication? How was your dad going to know what time and when he was going to be let into the home?
It was pretty much just me letting him know updates and, hey, they're going to bed, and then they waited for Cooper to fall asleep to come over.
Why is it that you were going to have to let your dad in, or Trevor Summers in through, in the house? Why couldn't he just come during normal hours that someone would come to the house?
I don't remember if there was ever an actual reason I was given.
Okay. Did you know whether or not your mother had a domestic violence injunction against your father at that time?
Yes.
Judge, may I approach the witness?
Yes, you may.
Ms. Summers, I'm showing you what's been pre-marked as State's Exhibit I-1 through 66 for identification purposes. Have you previously gone through these messages?
Yes.
Okay. And do they fairly and accurately depict the conversation that took place on the night of March 10th and the early morning hours of March 11th between you, Landon, and Trevor Summers?
Yes.
State offers into evidence State's Exhibit I-1 through 66.
Any objection?
No objection.
That'll be admitted.
Permission to publish.
You may publish.
State I-1. Now, this is a photograph of your actual phone. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Did law enforcement take these photographs when you ultimately spoke to them?
I don't know when specifically they were taken, but I assume so, yes.
Okay. Did you provide your phone to law enforcement?
Yes.
And did they pull the messages up actually on your phone and then photograph them?
Yes.
Okay. So we're looking at your phone. It says FORM Voltron. What is that?
Voltron was a Netflix show that I was really into at the time, so it was just what I had based the group chat name off of.
So you called this group chat
Yes.
that name. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. And we see a text from Landon on Friday at 4:13 p.m. What is that photograph?
That is a picture of my dad's father.
Okay. And OMG, is that shorthand for oh my God?
Yes.
Okay. And everything in the gray, is that your response?
Yes.
And otherwise it would have Landon or the other person, the defendant's responses. Is that correct? What are we looking at underneath your response, OMG?
It was another funny post I had just sent. There was no reason for it.
Okay. Publishing I-2. We have the bottom, at the very, very tip top, we have the bottom of your last post. Is that correct?
Yes.
Now we have a message from a person called Taylor. Who is Taylor in this group chat?
That would be Trevor Summers.
Why is it that his name was Taylor in this group chat and not something like Dad or Trevor or something else?
He went under an alias in the group chat just so if my mom looked at my phone, she didn't think that I was talking to him.
Whose idea was it that you put him under an alias?
That was his idea.
Okay. So, question at 7:10 p.m. How's it going? From Taylor, and your response is what?
Good so far.
And Taylor responds, no booger man there. Who's the booger man?
That would have been Jeff Mathewson.
Okay. And what is your response?
We're not home yet, pulling into the neighborhood now.
And what did you mean by that?
My mom had just recently picked us up, so we were on the way to her house at that time.
And Landon responds, hi.
Yes.
And what do you respond?
Hi, Lan, which was a nickname for him at the time.
I3. At 7:11, the defendant responds, did you go somewhere first or straight there? And what is your response?
Straight there.
And the defendant responds, you took the long way, I guess. And what is your response?
Yeah, we're there and I see nothing.
What do you mean by that? I see nothing.
Having to do with Jeff Mathewson.
Were you told to look out for him if he was going to be there when you got there?
Yes.
Why did the defendant want to know if Jeff Mathewson was there?
He wanted to know if perhaps he would show up or intervene or anything like that.
Intervene? What do you mean?
I don't know if there was anything that we were worried about if he would stop us from seeing my mom, just that he would show up is what the concern was.
Okay. And Landon had responded, look for the black pound sign, whole car. Okay. And what does it mean, pound sign, whole?
He would be referring to the word asshole.
Okay. Is it fair to say that Landon was not happy that your mom was dating?
Not at all.
I4. And you, what is your response to that?
My response was, I did, LOL.
And LOL is shorthand for what?
Laugh out loud.
So then it jumps to 7:25 p.m. The defendant responds, all good there? And what's your response?
Yeah, just watching a movie.
And Landon states, secretly take pictures, make sure your flash is off. And what do you respond?
Just okay.
And Landon responds, is mom with you? Publishing states, I5. What is your response?
Yeah, she hasn't been on her phone yet.
And what do you mean by that?
If she was perhaps texting Jeff or just on her phone in general, not spending time with us.
Okay. And Landon responds, is she hanging out with you? And what's your response?
Yeah, we're watching a movie.
And Landon asks, or says, and use the code word once and a while. What does he mean by use the code word?
We had a code word in case like my mom had taken my phone and was replying to the messages, but it wasn't really used.
Whose idea was it that a code word was needed?
Trevor Summers.
Do you remember what the code word was?
If I remember correctly, it was peach.
Okay. So what do you respond?
I responded with yeeples.
Was that the code word?
No.
I6. The defendant responds, that's a different code word. Did it change? And what's your response?
Me and Landon made it up. LOL.
Taylor responds, what's it look like there? And that's at 8:01. What is your response?
Everything is normal.
And then the defendant asks, meant a picture. Publishing I7. And do you text message the picture?
Yes.
And is this, what's this photograph of?
That is a photograph of my mom's living room from one of the couches.
And is it from where you were seated?
Yes.
Watching the movie?
Yes.
And the defendant responds, looks like no one there. Publishing I8. Landon responds, who is in this photograph?
That would be a picture of Landon.
And what is your response?
The heck, Landon, LOL.
Publishing I9. Do you send another photograph?
Yes.
And who's in this picture?
It would be Bryn and Grady.
And where are they?
They are sitting on the couch. And my mom is there, but she's cut out.
I'm sorry?
She's in the picture, but she was cut out.
So she's on the couch?
Yes.
In the middle of Bryn and Grady?
Yes. Grady was on her lap at the time.
Okay. Publishing I10. The defendant sends a photograph. Do you know what this photograph is of?
It was when they were fishing in Apollo Beach.
And that's what they were doing that night while you were at your mother's house watching a movie with Bryn and Grady and her?
Yes, correct.
And what's your response?
My response was, where are you? And then I had corrected it to, where are you? And then, oops, LOL.
Publishing I11. The defendant responds, Apollo Beach fishing. And what's your response?
Oh, looks like Landon is miserable in his picture, XD.
And what do you mean XD?
It was sort of like a smiley face emoji kind of.
Okay,
response.
so now people can typically hit on a smiley face or a sad face, and that's what it comes up. Is that correct?
No, it's like when you put a colon and then a parentheses, it's supposed to look like a smiley face.
But I'm talking nowadays, like people can just hit the
yes.
sign of it. Okay, and so this back in 2017, did your phone have that ability?
It did. I just didn't use it.
Okay. So Landon responds with another photograph. Is that correct?
Yes.
Publishing I-12. What is your response?
Much better, XD.
And what do you mean by that? Just the photograph, responding to his photograph?
Yes.
And then Landon responds, and that was I don't smiles, cringe. Is that correct?
Yes.
And publishing I-13, how do you respond?
XD, and then I meant to say OMG.
And the defendant responds with a photograph. Who is that in the photograph?
That is Trevor Summers.
I-14, what do you state back?
LOL, nice. Mom went into her room to get ready for bed.
And Landon responds, you need to stay awake, on all caps.
Mm-hmm.
And why did you need to stay awake?
To let my dad in the window later.
And what is your response?
I am dum-dum, and then a little face.
Landon asked you at 8:51, are you tired? And what is your response?
No.
Publishing I-15, Landon responds, did the kid say anything about new car? What does he mean about the new car?
I don't remember exactly.
Okay. And what is your response?
Nope.
And Landon says, did the kid say anything about the pool? Do you know what he meant by that?
I do not remember.
And what is your response?
No.
Landon replies, good. And what do you reply?
I said, yeah.
Publishing I-16, the defendant responds at 9:04 saying, it's milkshake time.
Yes.
And what do you respond?
And I respond with lucky.
What does it mean to be milkshake time?
That they were going to get milkshakes.
Okay. And the defendant responds, perump. What does that mean?
That is where my friend at the time lived, and he had promised me that I would go see her if I allowed him to talk to my mom.
Okay, so your friend lived in Pahrump?
Yes.
Where is that?
That is located in Nevada.
And so you were promised a trip to visit her if you let him in to your mother's home that night?
Yes.
And what do you respond?
I responded with, I know, XD.
And Landon responds, LOL?
Yes.
I-17, the defendant asks, still watching a movie? And what's your response?
Yeah, sorry. I just put on a movie after everyone went to bed.
And this is at 9:43 p.m.?
Yes.
And the defendant responds, everyone is in bed already, question mark?
Yes.
And you respond?
Yeah.
And the defendant asks, is mom by herself? And publishing I-18, what is your response?
My response was, no, little kids are with her.
And the defendant states, you should check on them. Are they sleeping with her tonight? Make sure she's not video chatting and introducing them to that guy, code word. And what do you respond with?
I responded with, Peach, all is silent.
And Peach, was that the code word?
Yes.
And then the defendant says, okay, peek in there or go to the bathroom. Make sure they're okay. I-19, what do you respond?
I responded with, okay, just checked, she's fast asleep.
And that's at 9:51 p.m.?
Yes.
And the defendant responds, little kid's asleep too. And what do you respond?
I responded with, Bryn is, Grady isn't.
And the defendant asks, what's he doing? Arden, you still awake? And that's what Landon had texted, correct?
Yes.
Publishing I-20. What is your response to Landon's question?
I responded, he was getting a drink of water, then laid down. That was supposed to send like 20 minutes ago. Yeah, I'm awake.
And that was referring to Grady, who is still awake?
Yes.
And the defendant responds, did she leave her purse out? Any pills in there? What did he mean by that?
He was looking to see if she had any birth control prescriptions or anything of the sort.
So did he ask you to go look through her things to see if you saw any of that?
I do not remember.
Okay. Was there discussion that he wanted you to do that before you got there that night?
Not that I remember.
And what did you respond?
I responded with IDK, which is short for I don't know.
Okay. I-21, the defendant responds, well, have a look if you can. And what do you respond?
I responded with, okay, all there was Alka-Seltzer.
And where did you look for these pills that he wanted you to find and then all you found was Alka-Seltzer?
I don't remember.
The defendant then says, okay, any receipts for prescriptions or birth control? And what do you respond?
Not that I see.
And the defendant responds with okay?
Yes.
And that's at 10:35 p.m.?
Yes.
Publishing I-22. What is your response?
My response was, when do you think you're coming?
And the defendant responds, as soon as Coop goes to sleep. Is Coop short for Cooper?
Yes.
So at 10:45, Cooper, 3-year-old Cooper is still awake?
Yes.
And what is your response?
My response was, good Lord, how late is that child staying up, XD?
And the defendant responds, make some coffee?
Yes.
Did you drink coffee at the time?
I did not.
And what did you state?
I replied with, I'm not tired.
And that's at 10:47?
Yes.
Publishing I-22, look, the defendant responds, look out front for that jerk's car with the hood scoop. Whose car is that?
That would be Jeffrey Matthewson's.
And how did you respond?
I responded with, I know.
And then the defendant responds, did you notice if mom had a passcode on her phone or a thumbprint? And I-24, how did you respond?
I responded with she uses thumbprint.
And were you aware that she had recently gotten a new phone?
I don't remember.
Landon responds with, I'm making a house for your cat. What did he mean by that?
I'm not sure, but I did have a cat at the time.
Okay. And what's your response?
I said, LOL, thanks.
And then Landon sends a picture?
Yes.
And what do you know what that's a picture of?
I don't remember.
Okay. Publishing I-25, what's your response?
Nope, don't do it. Landon Trevor Summers, don't you dare.
And was that in response to the photograph he had just sent?
Yes.
And Landon says, sorry, it's being done. And what's your response?
No.
Publishing I-26, another picture is sent. Is that a cupboard? A kitchen cupboard?
I believe so.
That he made a cut from?
Made a cut in the hole in it, yes.
Okay. And what was your response to that?
OMG Landon in all caps.
And Landon responds, I'm still working on it. And what is your response?
Did Dad let you in all caps?
Publishing I-27. Landon responds, yees, oop, yes. What's your response?
LOL, okay.
And Landon, you can ask him, and your response?
Cooper asleep yet?
And Landon states no, and what's your response?
Good Lord.
And this is at 11:48?
Yes.
Publishing I-28. Landon types back IKR. What is that shorthand for?
That stands for I know right.
And that's a response to Cooper still being awake?
Yes.
And what's your response?
Dang child.
Landon responds, yeah, and then what do you respond?
Does he seem tired?
And then the defendant responds, yes, making coffee now. Cooper didn't drink coffee at 3, did he?
No.
Okay. Publishing I-29. What's your response?
I said good. Oh, okay.
And Landon says, yay, coffee. What's your response?
OMG.
And then there's a picture that gets sent of a coffee machine?
Yes.
Okay. I-30. What do you respond?
Yum.
And Coop is almost asleep, Landon states. What's your response?
Good.
And the defendant still states, everyone's still asleep?
And I responded with yeah.
Okay, and that was meaning your mother, Grady, and Bryn?
Yes.
Then it states that you were in a call at 12:10 a.m. Is that a group call with this Google Hangouts, or would it have been with one person or another?
It would have been a group call.
Between all three of you, you, Landon, and the defendant?
Yes.
Publishing I-31. This is now early morning hours of March 11th of 2017 at 12:31 a.m. What is your response?
I responded with how far away are you?
Landon responds, not too far. And what do you say?
Okay.
And Landon says 10 minutes. And your response?
Okay.
And then is there another group chat or call, at 12:36 a.m.?
Yes.
Do you remember what occurs with these two group calls at 12:10 and 12:36?
I do not.
I-32, what is your question? Or I'm sorry, this is, now I'm looking just down at, there was another group call at 12:42 a.m.?
Yes.
Do you remember what is included in that call?
I do not.
I-33, there appears to be a missed call from Landon at 12:45.
Yes.
And that would have been a group call as well?
Yes.
Okay. Then we're jumping to 12:50 a.m. And the defendant responds, you guys okay? So tell me, leading up to that point, you were at your mom's, is that correct?
Yes.
And Landon and the defendant were together?
Yes.
Now, from the way this question comes out, where was everybody at that point at 12:50 a.m.?
At that point, me and Landon were both waiting in the Chrysler Pacifica that was parked down the street.
Okay. So let's stop for a minute and let's talk about how we get there. So what happens? How do you get down to the Chrysler Pacifica?
I opened the window of the kids' bedroom in my mom's house, and I climbed out the window, and I had passed my dad and met up with Landon, and Landon and I walked back to the Chrysler Pacifica.
Okay. So how did you know when to open up the window?
I don't remember if there was, I believe there was a call, but I don't remember exactly if there was a call or a text.
Is it possible that one of these calls alerted you to the fact that Landon and the defendant had arrived?
It is possible.
If it was a text, would it have been in the group text? If he had let you know he had arrived, that it would have been in the group text?
Most likely.
Okay. And there was no text saying he had arrived, correct?
No, there was not.
So you stated you opened up what window from your mom's house?
I opened the kids' bedroom window, which is the window on the side of the house.
And was anybody sleeping in there?
No.
And did you go out that window?
I did.
And is there a fence around your mom's house?
There is not.
And do you close the window after you go out the window?
I believe I left it open, but I don't remember for sure.
And where do you go then?
Met up with Landon and we went down to the community center to sit in the Pacifica.
Where was the community center?
It was right down the street. It was pretty much at the end of my mom's street with like one street crossing it.
Why was the defendant's vehicle left there?
I don't remember exactly why.
And when you met up with Landon, did he go with you down to where the defendant's minivan was?
Yes.
And what did you do when you got in the minivan?
We sat and waited.
Was that the plan? That's what was going to happen?
Yes.
Why is it that you didn't stay in the house?
I don't remember.
So then the defendant asks at 12:50 a.m., you guys okay? And Landon responds, yep. Publishing I-34. The defendant then asks, okay, this might take a little while. Publishing I-35, what is your response at 12:51 a.m.?
My response was okay.
Landon asks, are you okay? And the defendant responds, yes, trying to wake mom up, get her out of her room to talk. And what's your response?
My response was okay.
Ms. Johnson, this is probably a good time. The jury's pizza is here, so we're going to go and let them eat maybe 20 minutes or so and bring you back and go up to 8 o'clock. So let us know if you need additional time. When the Bailey goes back to get you 20 minutes and you want some extra time, that's absolutely not a problem. And the plan is to come back and go until 8. Do not discuss the case amongst yourselves with anyone else. Do not do any research related to the case. All rise for the jury. Oh, you ready? All right. Mr. Summers, defense ready? All right, let's get the jury. It's 7:15. They said 8. So, Ms. Johnson, do you think that how much longer you have?
We think we're going to, yes, finish with her, and we have 2 more witnesses we hope to get on.
You remember that the defense gets to cross the witnesses.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
So, we have to guess. So,
Okay.
if we get the 2 on, great. If not,
Okay.
we'll have to put them on.
Let's get the jury. I wish I could. Be seated at this time. Gentlemen of the jury, welcome back. How was dinner? All right, everyone looks thumbs up, looks good. All right, I do apologize again for the early start and late end, but we're going to go up till 8 o'clock, and I'm going to allow the state to pick up where they left off.
I believe where we left off is Landon had asked at 12:51, are you okay? And the defendant responds, yes, trying to wake mom up to get her out of her room to talk. And your response is what?
My response was okay.
And the defendant responds, don't start the car, wait for me. Because you were sitting in the Chrysler Pacifica, is that correct?
Yes.
I-36, what is your response to that, wait for me?
Shoot, we're turning it off. It's off.
So had you turned the car on?
Yes.
And the defendant responds at 12:54, I'll be quiet for a while, I'm going in. And did you know what he meant by that?
I assume he meant that he would not be texting for a little bit.
Did you know if that meant he was going in your mother's bedroom or not, or going in the house?
I do not know.
And what was your response?
My response was okay.
And his publishing I-37, the defendant responds, actually going in now, nervous. In your response?
My response was good luck.
He responds, thanks. This is taking forever. I took her phones, hope she notices and gets up to get them. Publishing I-38, Landon asks, still asleep? And what's your response?
She's still asleep.
With question marks, correct?
Yes.
And are you referring to your mother?
Yes.
And the defendant responds, yes, but stirring any minute now at 1:19 a.m. What is beautiful?
It was meant to be slang for beautiful.
And who's photographed there?
That is me and Landon.
In the Pacifica?
Yes.
I-39, what's your response?
My response was, just take the kids, that'll wake her up.
And the defendant says, keep an eye out for that jerk. Is that Jeff Mathewson? Yes. And Landon responds, I am. And what's your response?
We're keeping an eye out for that son of a bitch.
And Landon says, Arden's not. And what do you state?
Yo.
And Landon says that she is on Pinterest. Were you on Pinterest?
Probably.
I-40. She has a PIN code for the new phone, but can't figure it out. That's the defendant's statement at 1:21 a.m.
Yes.
And her new phone, did she have a new iPhone?
I don't remember.
Okay. And you had originally told him that she unlocked her phone via thumbprint in the text that we previously reviewed?
Yes.
And Landon says, we drank 3/4 of Monster, and the defendant responds, okay, and what did you state?
I don't know what it is.
And is that response to not knowing what the code is to get into your mother's phone?
Yes.
I-41, there's a missed call from Landon, a group call that he had placed at 1:24 a.m.
Yes.
And the defendant responds, can't talk on the phone. Landon responds, okay, and the defendant says, really taking forever, you guys okay? I'm going to make a noise to wake her up. And what is your response?
I responded with okay.
I-42, Landon says Jeff car, and what do you state?
I stated Jeff saw a car that kind of looked like Jeff's.
And Landon responds, crap. Did you in fact see Jeff's car at around 1:40 in the morning?
No.
I-40 or I-43, what is your response?
I responded with shit.
And Landon responds, is Jeff there? The defendant responds, no. And Landon makes some kind of smiley face, so relieved. And the defendant states, I'm turning on the TV now. Publishing I-44. She's dead asleep. And Landon responds, is that woman awake? This should work. And what's your response?
My response was okay.
I-45. Landon responds, good. Any response? The defendant responds, she's just about awake at 1:56 a.m. Landon responds, good. And the defendant responds, still not waking up. Time for extreme measures. You guys okay? And what's your response?
The hell, with a question mark and an exclamation point.
I-46. Did you have another response?
I responded with, yeah, we're fine after that.
Landon states, water on face. The defendant says, okay, you guys okay? And your response?
My response was, yeah.
At 2:17 now, the defendant responds, it's still working on her. Landon responds, yup. Publishing I-47. The defendant responds, great, thanks. And Landon responds back, everything okay? The defendant says, yep, she's finally getting up. That's at 2:29 a.m. And what's your response?
My response was good.
And at this whole time, you were in the Chrysler minivan?
Yes.
Was Cooper in the minivan?
He was not.
Where was Cooper?
Cooper was asleep at my dad's house.
Okay. Who was at your dad's house while he was sleeping?
Nobody, just Cooper.
Okay. I-48. The defendant says, so now like 15 minutes. And Landon responds, after 50 minutes. And what's your response?
Okay, OMG Landon.
And the defendant says, IKR, and that's, I know, right?
Yes.
And the defendant responds, exactly at 3 a.m. she just woke up?
Yes.
And you respond?
Well, finally.
Then publishing I-49, the defendant responds, false alarm, she rolled over. I've had the TV on full blast, slammed the door, turned on the light, and she keeps going back to sleep. Guess it's water time. What is your response?
My response was, damn it, hurry up.
And were you tired of sitting in the car, all that? Because you had been in the car since, was it about 12:30?
Yes.
a.m. So the defendant says, I'm doing the water now, and your response?
Good.
Publishing I-50, the defendant responds, just finishing up with her, and your response?
My response was, okay, can we turn the car on now?
And he responds in a few minutes, and that's at 4 a.m.?
Yes.
And your response is?
My response was, okay.
The defendant says then, you need to turn off the daytime running lamps in the screen menu, otherwise the lights will be on suspiciously. I-51, and that was at 4:01 a.m. What is your response?
My response was, there's no lights on in the car, though.
And Landon says, I'm the getaway driver. Had he driven the car anywhere up to that point?
No.
And what is, the defendant responds, LOL, the headlights come on when the car is on. And then Landon responds, the car is on. Publishing I-52, so can we turn the car on and turn the headlights off? And the defendant responds, if you turn off the daytime running lamps in the settings menu. And Landon starts questioning about this. Is that correct?
Yes.
Publishing I-53. What? How do you do that? And what is this photograph or image of?
It is a photograph that says what in marination, and it was supposed to be in response to our confusion about the daytime headlights.
And was that, did you send that?
Yes.
And the defendant responds, never mind, I'll be there soon at 4:05 a.m.?
Yes.
And Landon responds, okay, publishing I-54. What is your response?
My response was, okay, are you leaving the house now?
The defendant says in 15 minutes at 4:06. And your response?
My response was, okay.
And Landon says, tell us when you are about to leave. Publishing I-55. The defendant responds, okay. And your response is?
My response was, try to hurry. Don't forget about Cooper. Landon wants me to drive to the house.
Were you upset, or were you concerned that Cooper was going to wake up and no one was going to be there?
Very much so, yes.
And when you say Landon wants you to drive to the house, what did you mean by that? Did you mean drive to your mom's house?
Yes, from the community center.
Did you think that your dad was almost done talking to your mom?
We weren't sure at that time.
Okay. Were you hoping that was going to maybe hurry things up?
Yes.
And the defendant says, we are hurrying, everything okay? And your response?
My response was, yeah, in front of the house.
Okay. So at some point, do you move from your location in the parking lot to your mom's house?
Yes.
Tell me about that.
We pretty much just drove the Chrysler Pacifica from the community center parking lot to my mom's house. It was only about a minute away.
When you say we, who is that?
I was the one driving, and Landon was in the passenger seat, so it was just me and Landon.
Okay. So that was at 4:23?
Yes.
That you send that message that you were in front of the house?
Yes.
Publishing I-56. The defendant says, I can see Cooper from my phone. He's fast asleep. Was there a monitor in Cooper's room at your dad's house?
Not that I recall.
What is your response?
My response was, okay, good.
And the defendant responds, thank you for being patient. And your response?
My response was, you're welcome. And then at 5:03 and texted, are you almost done?
And then the defendant responds, yes, stay in the car at 5:03 a.m.
Yes.
Publishing I-57, what was your response?
My response was, we are.
And the defendant states at 5:13, come in and get Bryn and Grady, door is open. And your response?
My response was okay.
So did you go in the house to get Bryn and Grady?
I did, yes.
And was that the first time that you had gone in the house since your dad had entered the house?
Yes.
Tell me what you saw when you walked in the house.
I walked in the house. I don't remember how I knew where they were in the house. I do remember walking back to my parents' bedroom and them being there.
When you say your parents' bedroom, was that ever your dad's bedroom?
It was not, no.
Okay. So did you see anything that you remember, anybody in the family room?
I do not. That part of the night was fairly blurry.
Okay. Had you slept at all that night?
I had not, no.
Okay. So where did you go to get Bryn and Grady?
I went to my mom's bedroom to get Bryn and Grady.
And what were they doing?
I don't really remember exactly what they were doing.
Do you remember seeing your mom?
I thought I did, but it's blurry. I'm not sure.
Okay. Do you know where your mom was?
No.
Did you see the defendant?
I don't remember.
Okay. So what do you do when you see Bryn and Grady?
I just remember walking with them out of the house into the car that was parked out front.
And that was the defendant's car?
Yes, the Chrysler Pacifica.
Okay. And do you all, the three of you, get in the car?
Yes.
Is Landon in the car as well?
Yes.
Do you remain there at that time?
Yes.
Okay. So you went in and you got Bryn and Grady as you were instructed to do, and then the defendant at 5:24 says walking out now, and what is your response?
My response was okay.
And at I-58 publishing, the defendant responds, sorry, one more minute. And what's your response?
My response was, oh, okay.
And the defendant responds, just about ready, you all are great. And your response?
My response was okay.
Okay, so then the next text we have is a jump to 6:03 a.m. The defendant is saying, you doing okay driving, nice and slow. So what happened between him saying he's just about ready at 5:34 to then texting you, asking you how you're driving at 6:03 a.m.?
He came out to the car shortly after he had said that and asked me if I could drive back to his house because Cooper was still asleep and he might wake up soon, and that he needed to still talk to my mom for a bit and it was going to be a while.
Do you remember what his demeanor was when he came outside?
He seemed calm. That's all I really remember about it.
Did you ever go back in the house at that point?
I did not.
So when he asked you to drive home, did you agree to drive home?
I did, yes.
Did you have a driver's license?
No.
And so what did you do?
I made sure that all the kids were buckled and I drove about 26 minutes from my mom's house to my dad's house.
Did you know the map or the way to get them? Did you know how to get there? Or did you have to use a map?
I had to use a map.
Like a Google's map?
There was if I remember correctly, a navigation panel on the Chrysler Pacifica.
And did you drive all the way home?
I drove to the neighborhood and then Landon asked if he could switch just to drive and pull into the driveway of my dad's house.
Were you scared when you were driving?
Yes.
Did you ever have to pull over or anything like that?
No.
Did you ever get pulled over?
No.
And did you let Landon drive then from the entrance of the subdivision to the defendant's home?
Yes.
And about how far was that?
It was only about a 2-minute drive, if I remember correctly.
And how old was Landon?
Landon was 12.
And why is it that he wanted to drive?
I don't remember exactly if there was a reason.
Okay. And so what happens when you got to the defendant's home?
When we got home, we went inside and Cooper was just about waking up when we came into the house.
And where was he? What bedroom was he in?
I don't remember.
And so then you had arrived safely at the home with Landon, Grady, and Bryn?
Yes.
Okay. So then the defendant had responded at 6:03, you okay driving nice and slow? And then Landon says yes. And what is your response?
My response was, we're in the neighborhood, Landon's driving now, and then we're home.
And that is at 6:18 a.m.?
Yes.
And the defendant responds, awesome. And what did you say?
I responded with, I did it, in all caps.
And then at publishing I-60, there appears to be a missed group call from Landon at 6:21 a.m.
I don't remember. Or yes, there was, but I don't remember what was said.
Okay. And the defendant says, you are awesome. And your response?
Thanks.
And then at So then there's a jump from 6:26 to 9:22 a.m. You all doing okay? What happened at the house between the time you getting home till about that time, 9:22?
As soon as I got home and Cooper woke up, I made the kids some breakfast and got them settled, made sure that they were comfortable and okay, and then I went and I slept.
Is that because you had been up the whole night previously? What was Landon doing?
I don't remember what Landon was doing.
Okay. And then the defendant had sent the text and publishing I-61. There doesn't appear, there's no response from you or Landon between the 9:22 and then there's another text publishing I-61 from the defendant. If Gummy texts or calls, don't answer until I let you know. Thanks. And that's at 11:40?
Yes.
Who is Gummy?
Gummy is my mom's mom, my grandmother.
Okay. And did you know if she would have been calling because she wasn't able to get in touch with your mother or why she would have called you all?
I don't know.
Okay. And what is your response?
My response was, okay, when you be back?
And that's at 12:07 p.m.?
Yes.
And the defendant says about an hour. And that's at 12:10?
Yes.
And your response?
My response was, kids are being a pain in the ass and I still sleeping because I got no damn sleep.
And the defendant responds, okay?
Yes.
And publishing I-62, the defendant says, is Landon awake? Can you take turns with him taking a break? Landon responds, when are you getting home? This is at 7:03 p.m.
Yes.
So the whole day has gone by on March 11th of 2017?
Yes.
And you and the kids were at the house?
Yes.
Were there any adults there?
No.
When then the defendant responds about 8:30. Landon says, when are we seeing the tigers? What does that mean?
If I remember correctly, my dad had a friend who worked with a big cats sanctuary, and we were going to go see them at some point.
Okay. Did you think you were going to do that on March 11th?
I don't remember.
The defendant says we can tomorrow, and land on publishing I-63. You respond what?
I respond with awe and an angry face.
And then publishing the rest of I-63 and I-64 is Landon with mad tiger faces.
Yes.
Okay. And then the defendant responds LOL, and Landon is saying it's not funny, I'm mad, and with more emojis. And what is your response then from at 8:33 p.m.?
My response was, where the hell are you, Dad? With exclamation points and question marks.
Did you have any idea what was happening at your mother's home?
Not at all.
Did you have any idea where they could be?
No.
I-65, the defendant responds at 8:34, leaving now, mom is coming with me. And Landon makes an emoji face, and what do you state?
I said, finally, do you know how hard it is to take care of kids when you gotta barely any sleep? I'm so tired.
And the defendant responds, you'll be rewarded greatly, my dear. Do you know what he meant by that?
I do not.
And Landon, publishing I-66, Landon says, what about me? All Arden is doing is yelling. And what do you say?
My response was, hey, in all caps.
And the defendant responds, you'll both be rewarded, of course. Love you. Mom's coming home. And that's at 8:38?
Yes.
And your response?
My response was, okay, love you too.
Was there any more text from the defendant on this group chat?
No.
That was the last that you had heard from him. Is that correct?
Yes.
Did he ever arrive home?
He did not.
Did your mom ever come to the house?
No.
Did you ever see a suitcase of your father's packed at his home?
I did not.
Did you know where your mother and the defendant were?
No.
On March 12th of 2017, did you know where your mother or the defendant was?
No.
On March 13th, did you know where they were?
No.
Were you later told that on March 13th of 2017 that your mother had been found as well as the defendant?
Yes.
Now, at some point, did law enforcement come to the defendant's house?
Yes.
And was that on the late hours of Saturday, leading into the early morning hours of Sunday? Do you remember?
Yes.
And tell me how that happened. Were there any adults at the house at that time with you and other children?
When the police first showed up, no, there were not.
Okay. And then, so the police came and tell me who opened up the door?
I did.
Okay. And tell me what happened.
When I opened the door, they asked if my parents were home. I had told them that they were not. I didn't know where they were, which they had asked me if I knew where my parents were. And they asked if there were any adults at the house, and I said there were not. So we got in contact with my dad's parents and then a family friend.
And did the defendant's parents come over to his house?
They did, yes.
And were you questioned by law enforcement about if you knew where your parents were?
Yes.
Is that when you shared the text messages with law enforcement when you spoke to them?
That's when I shared a different string of text messages from the night before, March 10th, when I had gone to my mom's house by myself.
Okay. So you had gone to your mom's house Thursday night by yourself?
Yes.
Okay. And was that for what purpose?
That was for the plan that we were going to let my dad in that night instead of Friday night.
So the plan was for this whole thing to take place on the night of March 9th?
Correct.
But you stated earlier that you had ended up going home because you had gotten in a fight with your mom about your dad.
Yes.
So you had showed those text messages to law enforcement?
Yes.
Okay. Did you ultimately tell them how you had gotten from your mom's house to the defendant's house?
Yes.
Did you tell them that you drove?
Yes.
Yes, you may.
Arden, I'm showing you what's been pre-marked as State's Exhibit G and H for identification purposes. We'll start with G. Do you recognize this disc?
Yes.
How is it that you recognize it?
I put my signature on it.
And have you previously viewed this disc?
I have, yes.
And is it a fair and accurate video of the minivan arriving back at the defendant's home at approximately 6:18 a.m. on the morning of March 11th?
Yes.
Showing you State's Exhibit H for identification purposes. Do you recognize this disc?
Yes.
How is it that you recognize it?
I have my signature on it.
And is this have you previously watched this?
Yes.
And is it a fair and accurate copy of the video that had taken place on your mother's street?
Yes.
That depicts you and Landon as well as the defendant?
Yes.
Okay. Judge, at this time, the state would offer into evidence State's Exhibit G and H.
Any objection?
No objection.
G and H should be admitted.
Permission to publish. Let me just make sure, check my exhibit list. I want to make sure that I did not mix up the exhibit tags. Permission to publish H first, Judge.
You may publish.
If you can tell me, Arden, who we just saw walk across the screen there.
That was Landon.
At 12:45 a.m.? Who is that walking?
That is Trevor Summers.
And is this your mother's street, De Bloom?
Yes.
See the cursor right there. Who do we see in this shot now?
That is me and Landon.
Oh, there it is. Were you walking just in a second ago towards your mother's home?
Yes, when we turned around.
Now, what direction are you and Landon walking in?
We were walking towards the Chrysler.
At 12:46 a.m.?
Yes.
Where was the defendant going?
He was going towards my mom's house.
And how far of a walk was it for you and Landon to walk down to where the defendant's vehicle was?
It was only about 5 minutes.
Now, for trial purposes, this video with with dead time of nobody in the frames, it's been cut to 4:22 a.m. There are some headlights coming down the street. Can you tell me if you recognize that vehicle?
Yes, that is the Chrysler Pacifica.
And who was driving?
I was driving.
And is that consistent with you responding in the text message at 4:23 a.m. that you were sitting in front of your mother's home?
Yes.
Permission to publish G. Do you recognize that vehicle?
Yes, that is the Chrysler Pacifica.
And who was driving at that point?
Landon was driving.
And where was he pulling into?
He was pulling into my dad's driveway.
And you had texted that you all had arrived home at 6:18 a.m.?
Yes.
Take a moment, Judge.
Examination.
Thank you.
Hello.
Let me ask you about a few things that you mentioned earlier tonight. One of the first things that you spoke about was that we could intervene, that Mr. Jeff might intervene. Do you know what you meant by that?
Not necessarily, more of just that he would come into the house and make a show, just make an appearance.
Do you know if at the time I was afraid of him?
I do not remember.
Do you know if we knew much about him?
We did not know much about him.
Do you know if we knew if he had guns?
I don't remember.
Judge, relevance?
I'll sustain.
May I use the exhibits, please?
Yeah, absolutely.
For the record, I'm using the same exhibits 5, 1 through 60.
Not a problem. And just as before, just before you publish, you don't have to ask to publish, just identify as you publish.
Yes. These are in reverse order.
We need to switch the screen. It's switched now to the computer. Oh, perfect.
Okay. Publishing I2. Arden, do you remember why we called Mr. Jeff the Booger Man?
I do not.
You do not. Okay. And publishing, I3. Arden, do you remember why Landon would have said, look for the black pound, pound, pound whole car?
Because at the time he did not like Jeff.
He did not like him?
No.
Pardon me, Your Honor. In reverse order, I'm trying to sort them back so that it's easier to get through the pictures. Publishing I-39. No. Arden, do you see my comment there? Keep an eye out for that jerk.
Yes.
Do you remember why we talked about him as a jerk?
Because at the time he was in a relationship with my mom.
And Arden, let me ask, do you remember communications that we had with Mom about Mr. Jeff?
I do not.
Do you remember me using your phone to communicate with your mother?
I do.
You don't?
I do.
You do. How often would you say I communicated with your mother right before this night?
I don't remember how often exactly it was, but it was a couple times a week.
It was a couple times a week. Do you know if your mother responded as we were communicating?
I do not remember.
Do you remember some conversations we were having leading up to this evening?
I do not remember.
Do you remember me saying that we needed Mom's permission for you to go to Nevada?
Yes, I do.
Do you believe that that's a true statement?
Yes.
Okay. Why would we need Mom's permission?
Because at the time you were separated.
And Mom still was legally responsible for you?
Yes.
Yes. And I couldn't just send you to another state, correct?
Correct.
Other than to talk to your mother, do you remember any other conversations that you and I, or you and me and Landon had about going to Mom's house?
I just remember that you said you needed to talk to her about some legal stuff and to get permission for me to go to Nevada.
Okay. And Arden, publishing I-7. Arden, on this photograph here, where were you sitting when you took that photograph?
I was sitting on the couch that was against the wall in the living room.
Okay. And publishing I-9. And Arden, where are you sitting there?
I was still sitting on the couch that was against the wall in the living room.
Is that a pillow on your lap?
Yes.
What pillow is that?
One of the throw pillows that was on the couch.
Okay. And after your mother and Brandon Grady went to bed, let me leave that there for a moment. Did you stay on that couch?
Yes.
Were you just watching television that night?
Yes.
Did you just toss the throw pillows off and just sit there?
I don't remember.
Okay. What are Brandon Grady covered with?
Blankets.
Any idea what blankets they were?
I know one of them was Grady's Minions blanket, and another one was just a white blanket we had in the living room.
Okay. Do you remember seeing a starfish blanket there with them?
I do not remember.
And publishing I-21. Arden, do you see where I say any receipts for prescriptions or birth control?
Yes.
Do you remember me speaking to your mother about her possibly being pregnant?
I do not.
You do not?
No.
Okay. And publishing I-60. And I know there's a little glare on there. Do you see where it says you were in a call with Landon?
Yes.
You remember me being on the telephone with you guys and you drove home?
I do not remember.
You don't remember?
No.
So in that evening, when you were with your mother at the house, I'm sorry, when your mother picked you up, where did she pick you up from that evening?
She picked us up from one of the community centers in the neighborhood, Panther Trace.
Okay, that was just down the road from my house?
Yes.
Okay. And do you remember any conversations you had with your siblings or your mother on the way home?
I do not.
Objection, hearsay, Judge.
Not yet. We'll answer if she remembers any conversations. Just don't tell us what the conversations were. Only if you remember them.
I do not remember.
You don't? Okay. Do you know if our neighbor was watching our house?
I do not remember.
Do you remember your friend who lived up the street whose dad had a boat?
Objection, Judge. Relevance.
Sustained.
When you got home the next morning, where was Cooper sleeping?
I do not remember.
When I came out to the car to speak to you, do you remember what I said to you?
Just that you told me that you still had to talk to my mom and that you asked me if I could drive back to your house because Cooper was still sleeping there.
Okay. You said I seemed calm when I came to the car.
I don't really remember, but that's what I remember from it, yes.
Okay. And when I sent you a text saying that Mom was coming home, you knew that I was coming home as well?
Yes.
And what did you think about your mother coming home?
I was happy about that.
Why were you happy about that?
No kid wants their parents to get divorced.
And did it seem strange that your mother was coming home?
I don't remember at the moment.
Do you remember me and Mom talking about these kind of things in phone calls leading up to this night?
I don't remember.
When you saw the video of you and Landon walking on the street, and then you saw me, and you guys went back and talked to me on the street that night, do you remember what we talked about?
I do not.
When you saw me in the video, is that what I was wearing?
Yes.
Did I have anything on me?
Not that I remember.
No. Okay. And Arden, you said you didn't really remember when you came in to the house to get Brendan Grady where your mother and I were.
Yes.
If I showed you a statement that you gave during a deposition recently, would that refresh your memory?
Possibly.
Your Honor, may I?
Yeah, let me just have the bailiff handle the deposition. If you can identify exactly where the page and line number, I'll have the bailiff take it to her.
Yes. Okay. Page 17 and 18. Starting on page 17, line 23, going to page 18, line 2. If you take a look at that, Arden, and see if it refreshes your memory.
Sure. Does that refresh your memory? A little bit.
Okay. Can you tell us then, when you came into the home, where you saw your mother and I?
I guess I remember seeing you and her in the bedroom with the two little ones.
Okay. And the two little ones just went with you right after that?
That's what I remember, yes.
Okay. And were they happy? Were they sad? Do you remember?
I don't remember.
Did you just want to come in and get out?
I believe so.
Okay. And Arden, did you ever see us physically fighting in the home when you came in?
Not physically, no.
Not this time?
No.
Have you seen us physically fighting before?
Not that I remember, no.
And let me ask you, were you able to answer all the questions tonight of your own memory?
Yes.
Okay. Well, then I have no further questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Reck.
Arden, when you were walking in the street and saw the defendant pass by walking to your mother's home, did you stop and have a long verse conversation with him, or was it simply a passing by?
From what I remember, it was a passing by.
And was it dark out?
Yes.
If your father had been on the phone with you the entire time that you drove home and had arrived home, there would have been no need for the text saying you had arrived home at 6:18 a.m. Is that fair to say?
Correct.
Nothing further done.
May this witness be released by the state
She can be released by the state.
and released by the defense?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. You may step down. You may be released as a witness at this time. I'll ask the state to call your next witness.
Detective Wojciechowski.
Detective Wachowski. Detective Wachowski, good evening and welcome. If you'll come forward to be sworn, wherever you're comfortable, if you'll face me and raise your right hand, please. Thank you. Do you swear affirm any testimony you give in this proceeding will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you. If you'll follow the bailiff to the ramp that leads up to the witness chair, please watch your step. Go ahead, have a seat, make yourself comfortable. That microphone in front of you is fully adjustable. You're welcome. You may proceed, Ms. O'Connor.
Sir, can you please introduce yourself to the jury?
Sure. Richard Wojciechowski, Woychowski, I'm the Master Detective of the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office.
And sir, how long have you been with the Sheriff's Office?
Since 1988.
And what do you currently do for the Sheriff's Office?
I'm a covert operations technician.
Do you take part in analyzing or downloading electronic devices?
Yes, ma'am.
Briefly explain how that's done.
We're given a cellular device or a tablet or what have you. It's either accompanied with a search warrant or a consent to search by the owner. We have a device called Cellbrite, and it's all software on a PC. They have toggles that basically go into the data port on the bottom of your phone where you charge it. Plug it in, there's prompts for each telephone. Follow the prompts, and it does everything else for you.
Do you receive training in order to use Cellbrite?
Yes, ma'am.
How long is that training?
It's online. I hate to say this was so long ago, I don't remember how long it was.
That you received the training?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. How long have you been doing forensic downloads of phones or other electronic devices?
Since 2003.
Okay. I want to draw your attention to March of 2017. Were you asked to conduct a forensic download on several cell phones regarding this case?
Yes, ma'am.
Specifically, an iPhone 6. Were you asked to do a forensic download on an iPhone 6?
Yes, ma'am.
And was that based off of a search warrant or a consent?
Search warrant.
And when you are provided the device, are you provided that from a detective?
Yes, ma'am.
And they're asking you to do the download?
Correct.
Do they then also provide you with either the search warrant and the consent or consent?
Yes, a copy.
Okay. And if it's a device that has a passcode, are you provided the passcode?
Yes, ma'am.
If the detective had obtained it?
Correct.
If there is no passcode, are you able to access the phone?
You are now. At that time, you weren't.
Okay. Is that because the software's gotten technologically better?
There's a new piece of equipment called Grey Key that does that now.
Okay. But back in 2017, Grey Key did not exist.
We didn't possess it.
Okay. So if you didn't have the passcode, you would not have been able to get into a phone back in 2017.
Not an iPhone, no, ma'am.
Okay. So in a case in which either there's a search warrant or a consent, if you are provided the passcode from the detective, you're able to access the phone.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So in regards to the iPhone 6S that you forensically downloaded, you said it was from a search warrant?
Yes, ma'am.
Were you provided a passcode?
It was unlocked when I got it.
It was. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Were you able to put it to the Cellbrite software program?
Yes, ma'am.
And were you able to download or extract the contents of the phone using the Cellbrite software?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you explain what the software does when you are extracting information from the phone?
What it does is all the data on the phone that has been released by whatever provider manufacturer of the telephone, it goes in and makes a copy of that and then puts it on a media device.
So is it fair to say that Cellbrite is basically taking a copy of whatever is on that phone and putting it into a PDF format?
Correct. PDF, Excel, whatever they prefer. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. What about videos or photographs, text messages that are deleted from an iPhone? Could those still be extracted Using Cellbrite?
Yes, ma'am.
How is that?
If the partition hasn't been written over and it's still there, even though it's been deleted, it's still on the telephone. Once it's been written over, it's no longer available.
What do you mean by written over?
So if you have a storage card and it only takes 16 gigabytes and you try to put 17 on it, it's going to go back to the beginning and write on it's basically going to overwrite one of the older files.
And then because of that, it's going to delete that older file from the phone's data storage for good.
Correct.
Okay. So I'm going to show you State's Exhibit X. Do you recognize this?
Yes, ma'am.
How do you recognize it?
It's the extraction report that Cellbrite produces when you download a telephone.
And is that a fair and accurate copy of the first few pages of the extraction report from Cellbrite for the iPhone 6s that you did regarding this case?
Yes, ma'am.
And when you get these extraction reports, how big are they?
They get anywhere from a page. I've seen them all the way up to 10,000 pages. So it depends how much data is on the device.
Okay. Ultimately, what do you do with the extraction report?
The extraction report is put on whatever media device the detective provides me, and then it's given to the detective.
Do you go through and review any of the contents from the extraction report?
No, ma'am.
Just put it onto the media device and then give it to the detective?
Correct.
Your Honor, at this time the state will move into evidence State's Exhibit X.
Any objection?
No objection.
X will be admitted.
May I publish?
You may publish to the jury.
And Detective, you can see that screen there behind you. So we're looking at the top of the extraction report, and it says report creation time, March 16th, 2017. Is that the date and then the time of when Cellbrite created this report?
Yes, ma'am. That's when the extraction began.
Okay, and your name is listed as being the examiner?
Correct.
Where it says notes, at the bottom of that top column area, it says Detective J. Sands S/WCID. What is that?
Detective Sands would have been the case agent that provided me with the device. SW stands for search warrant, and CID is criminal investigation.
Okay, and then moving to the table for source extraction, we see that it is an iPhone 6s.
Yes, ma'am.
What does it mean by encrypted, by UFED, physical logical analyzer, during the extraction process for user credentials information?
It's basically password protected with that 1234 for the detective.
Okay, and then looking at the table here under device information, are you inputting the information that is listed here as far as any emails, Apple ID, phone numbers?
No, ma'am. That's all extracted from the device through that toggle cable.
Okay. Do you recall doing a forensic download on any other devices in this case?
I think there was a couple other devices.
And did you follow the same process with those?
Yes, ma'am.
And provide the report on a device to the lead detective?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you have any other involvement?
Not that I recall.
And again, going back to those other phones that you did the extraction on, same as with the iPhone, are you reviewing those extraction reports?
No, ma'am.
Nothing further at this time, the state will pass the witness.
Cross-examination?
Hello, Detective Wachowski. Just a few quick questions. So you said that not an iPhone could be opened unless you had the passcode?
At that time, yes, sir.
And you said you received that phone unlocked?
Correct, through the case detective.
How does that get unlocked?
That would have been through the case detective. I don't know what the process was.
Okay. And do you remember receiving 2 other Samsung phones?
Vaguely, yes, sir.
And do you remember one was unable to produce a report?
That I don't. I'm sorry.
Okay. That's all the questions I have.
And read ready.
No, Your Honor.
May this witness be released by the state and the defense?
Yes.
Thank you, Detective Wachowski. You may step down. You may be excused as a witness, or released as a witness at this time. You're very welcome. I know the state indicated you had one more witness. It's 10 minutes till 10. Is it a very short witness that you think we can get done in 10 minutes?
Not with direct and cross. We could start, or we might have them come back tomorrow morning.
Well, I prefer not to start if it's going to be, so we'll just do that. We'll let the jury go home a little bit short of 8 o'clock. Again, I appreciate them willing to stay late. It was a long day. And I am going to instruct you again not to do any research related to the case, discuss the case amongst yourselves, or with anyone else, avoid any reports of the case outside of the courtroom, including news media and or social media. So we're going to start again tomorrow at 8:30. And just be prepared just in case. I don't know, but just in case, and I'll do the same thing as I did today. I'll ask you all if you can go late if we have to. I just don't know that at this point. But we'll handle it the same way tomorrow. So please have a safe trip home. I'll see you in the morning at 8:30. All rise for the jury. Seated. All right, I just have a couple of questions scheduling. And first, Ms. Johnson, I want to thank you. You've taught me something very important. When I ask the state from now on how many days, I'm going to follow it up with 8-hour days or 12-hour days, just to be sure. I'm just giving you a hard time. I want to know, though, what you think now regarding if and what time you would rest tomorrow.
We are hoping Judge will be early afternoon.
Okay. So that means, Mr. Summers, if that's accurate, that we will turn to you, sir, to be ready to present your case.
Yes, sir.
Are you prepared to do that tomorrow afternoon?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. I do not foresee, tomorrow is Thursday, right? Yes. I do not foresee us at all getting to a point of closings tomorrow. We'll see how long the defense case lasts, assuming they begin, or he begins the case tomorrow, and try to get to closings on Friday. There is still the possibility, if necessary, I'm not at that stage yet, but we'll see where we're at tomorrow, where I could ask the jury if they can come back on Monday. So I just want to let you all know it's a possibility. It's obviously a last resort, but we'll see where we get tomorrow and then what we can get to on Friday. Is there anything else from the state before we end for the night?
Nothing from the state, Judge.
And I assume 8:30, I didn't confer with you all, but I assume we started at 8:30 today, we can start at 8:30 tomorrow?
Yes, absolutely.
All right. And Mr. Summers, anything from the defense before we conclude for the evening?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
All right. Thank you all very much. See you in the morning.
Wow, there you go. That was a couple long days there. So it was 11 hours, maybe even like 11 and a half that I condensed to 6 something. But they're pretty dense. Like, they don't really have a lot of sidebars. I mean, that's one thing I like about this. There's like hardly any sidebars. Jodi Arias had more sidebars than actual trial. I mean, it was insane. So, anyways, I think that is it. Thank you guys for reaching the goal. Basically, we mainly reached the goal by Amy Higg there. She's gave a quadruple cat eye donation. So thank you. So let's see. Somebody subscribed probably off of some other video earlier. Missed Think Twice. Super chats. Kathy Chapin. Amy Higg. The quadruple. Wayne Dunes. There's only like literally 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 people. But we did it anyway, so that's pretty good. Hold on, let me read it again. It kind of went by so fast. Kathy Chapin, Amy Higg, Wayne Dune, Cheryl Bullock, Just Junie, and Nicole. Alright, well, anyways, hope you guys are still finding it interesting. I don't think it's too long of a trial, so that's it. We'll see you guys this evening. Thank you for being here, and as I always say, until next time, be safe out there.
Drama! Huh? It's a house! Bitch, please!
Dude! Ray is so mean!
They're coming to take me away!
Mr. Martinez, are you angry at me? 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 Mr. Martinez, are you